Are you ready, guys? Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Monday, August 1st, 2016. This is the City Council work session, and I want to welcome all of you here. And Matt, we're going to have you up there in a second. At this particular time, I'm going to call the meeting to order. So here we go. Are you guys ready? This is our last and final presentation of an opportunity to promote Watertown. Matt, if you recall, he was our first presenter from Retail Strategies, and we had him Skyped in, and he just felt as though he needed the opportunity, and I think it's true that you needed the opportunity to come here and show the council what you got. And if you can shut your radios off, please. No, I'm kidding. I thought it was you, Beth.
It's the radio guy.
All right. So, Matt, come on up and grab a chair and tell everybody who you are and welcome to Watertown. And there's a little button right on your speaker there that you can push. The light's green. You're ready to go.
There we go. Can y'all hear me fine? Perfect. Well, thank y'all so much for having me here today. My name is Matthew Petra. I'm the Chief Development Officer at Retail Strategies. I'm very excited to present what we do for municipalities to you. I know I spoke, I guess it was June 1st, which I'm not going to act like you remember everything that I said. Certainly you've had a couple other firms come in here, so I'm going to try not to rehash too much, but really just want to open up and make this a dialogue of a back and forth of the opportunities that I see in your market and what you all want to see happen from a retail development perspective. So obviously first, thank you for the opportunity to be here. So what I did was I took the privilege of looking up your sales tax, what you retain from the municipal level, and what I found online was 2%, which I'm pretty sure is correct. You never know when it's online. But this is a retail recruitment ladder at 2%. Based upon a rough average of retail. So if you look at the top line here, a Walmart or a Target projects to do about $40 million in sales, add 300 jobs to the community, and to the city of Watertown, that would be about $800,000 in sales tax revenue that's collected and kept on the local level. And then if you go down to the bottom, even a Moe's Southwest Grill, which I know there's one down in Sioux Falls, that's Moe's started in Atlanta, Georgia, in the backyard of where I'm from in Birmingham, Alabama, and even that's going to project to do about $1 million in sales, add 15 jobs, and add about $20,000 to the city's local option sales tax collections. So, that's a huge reason for the community to invest in retail. Not only that, but to continue to be the major trade hub to really about 125 to 150,000 people that use Watertown to buy their their goods and services. One of the key things that's happened is that millennials have become the largest consumer demographic, meaning millennials want their goods and services immediate, and they want to control their time. So you think about restaurants that are expanding right now. It's not Red Lobster and Outback that it's expanding. It's Chipotle, it's Jimmy John's. It's these restaurants where you can walk in and have the sit-down service. You don't have the sit-down service, but you have the sit-down atmosphere. But you're controlling your time and you're not paying a tip. So, a family of four that's eating out at a Five Guys Burgers and Fries, pays $8 a meal, but they're not leaving a tip. So you're saving about 15 or 20% on your purchase there. But what's happened also is that the iPhone has really taken the place of a lot of goods and services that you used to go get. If you think about Office Depot and Office Max, you can see on this list, about 5 or 6 items that you would used to have separately, but you can now do all on your smartphone. So because of all this, retailers are having to be more exact with what they're doing. They're becoming more data-driven, and that's where we come in. So Retail Strategies, we currently employ 30 individuals. There's 2 that we have hired in the past week. One has been a broker for 7 years. The other, which has worked in municipal government for 5 years, that has come in and added to our team. But our background is in commercial real estate. We have been site selectors. We have been tenant reps. We have been developers. So we know the obstacles. We know retailers across the country. We have 180 plus years collectively of experience within our company, and collectively the members of our team have helped locate retailers in 44 states, and that's not Retail Strategies. That's before they entered into our company that we were able to accomplish those things. So when you partner with us, you're not partnering with data guys, you're partnering with people that are very tight-knit within the retail real estate industry and can get your materials in front of the people that need to see it. So the goals of our partnership are pretty simple. We want to increase the sales tax revenues. We want to attract the desired businesses that are not going to cannibalize the current businesses that are in the community, but they're going to maximize the opportunities in the market to improve the overall quality of life, and then to obviously create jobs within the community. But again, it's at Retail Strategies, it's not about what we're going to give you. You guys have seen 2 other presentations from firms that provide great research, and they provide a great product. But at the end of the day, research, you can go online and license all the information that we do. It'll cost you a pretty penny, but you could do it if you wanted to. So it's not about the deliverables, it's about the service. It's about locking arms with the community and becoming your partner. That's what we want to do. We want to become invested in this community so that we can tell your story. The mayor and I have been hanging out for the past 3.5 hours, going around the community, and have spoken with individuals. And you know, what you have is an incredible story. You know, walking into the university, walking into Dugan's and talking to Jim about his sales and what's going on, and hearing, you know, what he thinks the market needs and what the market doesn't need. Going to Charlie's, which I looked up. It's an incredible facility. The theater upstairs is gorgeous. But I looked online at Yelp because I got to eat tonight. And so I looked online at Yelp to see what was going on and what the hot spots were. And Charlie's had a 5-star rating. And I read the comments. Somebody waited 40 plus minutes and gave it a 5-star rating. So what that tells me is that that wait is going to lead to other entrepreneurial opportunities as well as retail opportunities in the downtown, because you have people that are standing outside. And the same reason that a McDonald's and a Burger King will locate on the same road is that another restaurant's going to come in, which I believe it's a sushi restaurant's going across the street, that if somebody's waiting, they say, well, let's go check out that restaurant instead of waiting here. So it's all going to feed off one another and create a critical mass that is going to be good for the community. So our process starts with market analysis, taking the deepest dive into research that's available, bringing our team of retail real estate professionals to the market to analyze the market in the eyes of a retailer. What does a retailer see when they come to Watertown? What does a developer see? And then obviously taking into a community input. What do we need to stay away from recruiting to the market? Even though it's a fit, we don't want to put somebody out of business that's been in business for 105 plus years within the community. And then we take those 3 inputs, we create a strategy, and then we put a team around the community to go out and execute that strategy on your behalf. And what's going to happen is your results. Whether that's good news or bad news, you're going to get results, meaning you're going to hear from a retailer that wants to be in the market, and we're going to hear from retailers that don't want to be in the market. But if they don't want to be in the market, we're going to know why. And we can either adjust what we're doing to try to meet their needs, or we can say, hey, this is where we need to build to. And you know, a lot of times we'll hear objections and we can turn those around, but sometimes they give you a good reason why the market doesn't work for them right now. So we can learn from that and we can figure out where we're going to go. But again, what we hope to have is the successes within the community. So the market analysis, I'm going to skip through this. We've already been over this, but so what I did was I took a mobile data study for your community. So mobile data study, the home location is where the phone sits idle during the evening. The work location is where the phone sits idle during the day. So that's how the locations are analyzed. It's not by area codes. It's through GPS within the phone, and it's accurate within 20 feet. It is scrambled so that you can't identify exactly where the home is to protect the consumer privacy. But as you can see on here, and I think how these blocks are pretty accurate when you're talking about defining a trade area. So the darker the block, the more people from a certain block that have shopped within. This was the target from January 1, 2016 to this Saturday. So when you draw that, outline that, this is really what you get, which I think is pretty accurate. Certainly this is a broad trade area, but these are the consumers who have come to the target, and this is not drawing the entirety of it. There certainly was a couple of dots in Minneapolis, which I think is more than likely they have family here, or there's some reason for them to come here to shop at that Target, because I know there's a Target in Minneapolis. So this is what I saw, and what the results of that is about 180,000 population. So to me, that's probably your secondary trade area. That's not the primary trade area, but you certainly are drawing from these areas. Projected to grow 0.99%. So 2021 is projected to be about 181,000. Median age of 38, which is good. Again, that 38 is going to be right on that millennial demographic, which is what the retailers are looking for. And then the household income of about 50,000 for that much space is a very good household income level. So it's a great story to tell already with just the basic demographics. So the psychographic analysis, again, is demographic shorthand. It's telling you a lot about the consumer in a very concise manner. And your top psychographic analysis was old and newcomers. So these are it jumped out to me because it's metropolitan city dwellers. So when you look at Watertown on a map, you're not thinking metropolitan, but when you come here and you see the co-tenancy in the market, you do think that this is a bigger market than what it looks like on a map. So this was a very eye-opening thing to me. And when you see this map of where else these consumers are located across the country, it's good to see it go coast to coast. A lot of the Tapestry segmentations are very regional. And what retailers want to do is they want to find the same thing in Atlanta, Georgia as they find in Watertown, because that makes it easier for them to enter the market. They're more familiar with that type of consumer. So it's very good that your highest psychographic segmentation was one that is a national. A gap analysis, this was done for the entirety of that trade area, so these numbers are not incredibly accurate, and this is not something that I put on your desk and put my stamp on, but just to give you some perspective of what's going on within a few of these categories. Furniture stores, grocery, clothing, sporting goods, department stores, restaurants, some of the opportunities that are within the community. One of the things about a gap analysis is that you do want to have a surplus in restaurants, because that means you've reached a critical mass where you have more people coming here to eat than going away to eat. So what that tells other restaurants is, I'm going to come feed off of that traffic. But on the flip side, a grocery store, you can't go buy more apples. Just because another grocer opens up, you're not going to go buy more groceries. There's only a limited number that you're going to spend there. And you're probably not going to go too terribly far to get apples or oranges, things of that nature. So what I like to refer more to is a peer analysis. And again, this is me doing it for about 3 hours, not incredibly scientific. But when you look at Watertown versus the peer average, again, you can see here residential population, daytime population, household income, market supply, and GLA. We're looking at pretty much identical communities to Watertown. And I looked at 3 communities in particular. So this is a little difficult to read. Watertown is in the blue. And then you have Pier 1, Pier 2, and Pier 3. So when you look at these graphs, these are the number of retailers from those categories and how you stack up. So as you can see, arts and entertainment, there isn't any in Watertown, but one of your peer communities has 2 stores and one of them has 1. Clothing and accessories, you're lagging behind your peer communities. Same thing with department. Smoothie, not so much. I would say that's pretty much equivalent. Taking it further, it looks like you're overdeveloped, not overdeveloped, but you have a more full-service restaurants than your peers, which is, again, as we discussed, is a very good thing. Grocery and supermarket, this is saying that you could probably support 1 more. Continuing on, again, quick service restaurants here, you have essentially relatively the same as your peers, but again, this is something that you can build on. So it's just taking you a step by step. But what we look at this for is to say, okay, we have the same number of sports and recreation stores that our peers do, but do they have somebody that we don't have? Or if we go back to full service restaurants, okay, we might have 5 and our peers have 2, 3, and 2, but what are those 2? What are those 3? What are those 2? And find those brands. Yes.
The other peer communities, are they in the Midwest, or do you have any?
Yes. Oh, goodness. That was a fantastic question, Mr. Roby. I should have said that to begin with. These are all communities. I think one is in Nebraska, one is in Iowa, and then the other one is in South Dakota.
Just to piggyback on that, what's the size, population size? Did you use them as peer communities, meaning that they have the same demographics for the most part?
Yes, ma'am. When you average all three of them out, this is what their averages equal. So with plus minus 5,000 of each of these would pretty much put you right in line. So after we define the opportunities from a data perspective, data can support a whole lot, but if we don't have the piece of real estate that works, they can't come. We can have data that says, hey, we need a new grocery store. There's a gap in it. Peer communities have 4 grocery stores. We only have 2. But if there's not a piece of real estate where the economics work, or it's on the or it's on the wrong side of the road, then a retailer can't locate. So real estate is your product. And when you look for real estate online in Watertown, you don't find any from a retail perspective. You have to go into Google Earth or into Google Maps and drill down to identify those opportunities. So as far as making the information available, it's really not. The WDC has done a good job with putting some properties online, but those are industrial focused properties because that's what they're going after. So making your product available is going to be incredibly important as you guys move forward. So our goal when we come to the market is to look at it from the eyes of a retailer, from the eyes of a developer, to identify the opportunities in the community. Where are they? What side of the road? What are the tenants that are going to be looking for that piece of dirt around those co-tenants, et cetera, and then packaging that material and getting it to them. So right now in Watertown, you have a great base of local, regional, and national retailers. You guys have done a great job with the development of 9th Avenue, and from what the mayor's told me and from walking around talking to Mike at Harry's, and we were trying to go by the brewery. They were closed on Monday, but you have a lot of momentum generating in the downtown, which is creating a very good consumer experience. You're getting people off the road for 9th Avenue, but you're filtering them into downtown, which is incredibly important. So the no-brainer opportunities next to the Hobby Lobby, or the future Hobby Lobby, with the mixed-use development in that space. Certainly that's prime real estate, and conceptually the city would like to see, I'm sure, a TJ Maxx or some clothing retailers, as well as some Kohl's or some more restaurants, I'm sure. The property owners, what they're influenced by is getting a deal done. It doesn't really matter to them who's coming, as long as they can get their rents, as long as they can get what they want for their land. So, if we have the privilege of being your partner, our job would be to lock arms with you and then to get with that property owner and feed them leads from retailers and restaurants that you'd like to see in your community, and work hand in hand with them to maximize the opportunities for you, because this type of land they're not making more land in Watertown, right? So we have to maximize what we have. Obviously, you have some redevelopment across from the Dairy Queen. That's an opportunity. Redevelopment takes a little longer. I would assume that your current space that's land that's available for development would develop first before anything would be redeveloped. But certainly, as opportunities come, that could change. Then obviously you have the land next to the Walmart. It doesn't have great visibility from 9th Avenue, but it's in every community that we work in, or 90% of them, when you have a Walmart, you have a shadow center next to them. A lot of the tenants that you typically see in the shadow center are already in Watertown, but I still think it's a great site for something. I haven't really dug in enough to know exactly what those opportunities would be. And then you look at the mall, obviously opening in 1977, with space available. From what the mayor said, you guys have a good relationship with Lexington, and certainly there's challenges with any indoor mall, but it seems to be doing okay right now. I mean, it's still open. There's still tenants in there, which is more than you can say for most indoor malls throughout the country. But certainly that's an opportunity that you have to consider when you're looking at the retail within the community. There's an outline of the community. So, talking about vision and retail strategy, so our 2 principals, Robert Jolly and Meade Silsby, this is in Mountain Brook, Alabama. So this is from Google Maps, and this is from 2010. So this is an area behind a 1950s era shopping center. And they said, you know what, Mountain Brook has great demographics. They're losing a lot of sales to communities next to them. We need to do a project here. So over the course of 5 years, they worked on this project. They said, hey, look, this is a great mixed-use development. We need a hotel. We need some restaurants. We need some clothing and apparel. And over 5 years, they were able to work with the city, and this is what it looks like today. It's actually 2016 now, and all of this has been built out. and that's a picture of it. The conceptual drawing, I couldn't find. I was out of town last week, or I was going to take a picture of it and bring it with me. But that's the vision that we have, and that's the track record we have of getting projects done. So it's taking vision, but it's putting action to it to make the project come out of the ground. That's the differentiator. So in Watertown, you really do have a thriving downtown right now. Compared to most downtowns that I go to, you have very little vacancies. You have active entrepreneurs. Everybody that I ran into, from Mike to Jim, they had the same message, which is incredibly important. So when you talk about thriving downtowns, there's a couple of key things that you typically see, and a lot of them you guys have already started doing. One that you haven't is the two-way streets, which you can still live on one-way streets. That's not a make or break. From what the mayor's told me, that's a debate within the community, but from everything that I've read and everything that we've seen, two-way streets help consumers more with pedestrian traffic, as well as just vehicle traffic getting back and forth. Having an entertainment district, the mayor has told me that you guys close off a street, I think, on Thursdays, which is fantastic. A bike share program. Essentially, they have little hubs where, if I'm a restaurateur, I can purchase a hub to put in front of my restaurant, and I can go rent a bike with a fob key and drive it around Watertown, and there's typically multiple hubs where you can drop it off. So I could start at Charlie's, and I could end, at the rec center if I wanted to, in theory. The other thing is to make it kid and family friendly. So not just to focus on one demographic, but to focus on all demographics to attract them to downtown. And the other thing is to direct them to downtown. So if I get off 29 and I'm on 9th Avenue, direct me to downtown. Just tell me that there's something to go do. Certainly there are tools that are apps like Yelp and others that can tell me that there's a really good restaurant in downtown, but signage, things of that nature, helps to put traffic down there. Parking is power. You guys have already taken steps there, but having ample parking is critical for the downtown. Extending day into night is also critical. Keeping all the stores open past 5 o'clock is very critical. And then managing for change. So looking into the future and saying, okay, if this happens, what are we going to have? And going ahead and building that infrastructure and looking to the future. So in Augusta, Georgia, we have had the privilege of working with them now for over 4 years, and we have helped recruit a Dunkin' Donuts and a Which Wich to their downtown, so two of the more national, regional brands. But in a partnership with Augusta, we're working in downtown, but we also ran into two retailers we were recruiting to downtown, and they really didn't see any sites they wanted, but they were interested in the market. So we were able to put them in other areas of the community. World of Beer was one of those, which is a national brand, and then Zoe's Kitchen, which is a more of a southeastern regional brand, becoming more of a national brand every day. But we're also doing work in multiple other downtowns throughout the country and having great success. The last thing that we take into account during that discovery phase is community input. We want to know what you guys want. We want to know what we need to stay away from, et cetera. We want to become invested in your vision and put your vision as part of our strategy to go out and execute. Any questions about, I know I just covered a lot. All right, I'll keep plugging away. So the strategy is actual strategies that we can use to attract the targeted businesses to the community. This retail strategy is about a 70 to 100-page PowerPoint presentation, and it covers everything I just went over. It covers the highlights of all of the research, all of the real estate, and then the community input. This is an example of the most talked about slides throughout the presentation, which are what are the prospects for the community. So not only do we tell you what the prospects are, but we tell you exactly what's going on within that sector of retail so that you can be more educated when you have citizens come up and ask you, hey, why are we going after fast casual restaurants? Well, because they're going to account for 40% of the growth of retail over the next 2 or 3 years. So again, this process takes about 90 days from start to finish. And that's depending on the conference schedule, things of that nature. It's better for us to prepare for ICSC Chicago, which I believe is October 8th and 9th, than to spend time, preparing a presentation for you. What we tell all of our clients is let us prepare for that conference and then give you the presentation afterwards, which is more beneficial to you. So the proactive recruitment, again, everything I've just told you, I'm sure you've heard before. Again, finding the research is pretty easy. If somebody comes into your market and drives past that Hobby Lobby site and doesn't say that mixed use or that piece of land next to Hobby Lobby isn't a great piece of property, they probably don't know what they're doing at all. The difference between us and every other competitor in our market is the team that we put around you. It's the retail real estate experience, it's the deep Rolodex of connections, and it's a long-term partnership that we hope to offer to you. So if we have the opportunity to work with you, Beth Miller, who's on the top of this screen, she was on the Skype call with me earlier in June. She has 10 plus years of retail real estate experience. She's leased and managed millions of square feet of retail space in the Southeast and Southwest United States, and she has a national network of industry relationships. Clay Kraft is a licensed real estate professional. He's in his course at Retail Strategies has located dozens of retailers across the country, and he has developed a national network of industry relationships. Joe Kucharski, he tells me it's 30 plus years. He won't give me the exact date or exact number of years, but he's located 350 groceries in his 30-year career. He's worked as the primary site selector for Costco in the southeastern United States. His claim to fame is that a Costco that he developed in the Southeast was the cheapest Costco that they've ever developed as far as price into the land and what it costs to develop. He's worked with Shopko, Hometown, Save A Lot, etc. He knows everybody in this industry. Robert Jolly and Meade Silsby, who are our two owners, they've developed, leased, and managed millions of square feet of retail space. They are principals of a brokerage house in Birmingham, Alabama, and that brokerage house did 501 transactions last year. So these guys are very knowledgeable of the deal-making process, how transactions work, what are the common obstacles of development, of leasing, how, in this industry and in any industry, time kills all deals. So they know how to navigate these deals on your behalf. Lacey Beasley, who's our president and COO, she's been working with municipalities, helping them to attract retail for 10 plus years. She's assisted in locating millions of square feet of retail space at her time at the Shopping Center Group, which is a major tenant rep brokerage house based in Atlanta, Georgia. She has a close relationship with ICSC, spoke at ICSC Recon, which is the largest retail real estate convention in the world, earlier this year, and she speaks at about 25 retail and statewide conferences each year. Wade Robinette is a 15-year real estate veteran. I'm kind of getting redundant here, but he's been a site selector, has developed shopping centers from the ground up. Ford Fitz has been our research guru for the past 3 years and has transitioned into a role as a retail developer or development coordinator. And he has an extensive knowledge of how to put these research packets together for these retailers, because at the retail level you have a tenant rep broker, but you also have a director of research typically. So there's two different types of people that have to be given information in different ways. And then we have a marketing team with 25 plus years of experience together and have collaborated on 150 plus projects. So where I met the mayor earlier this year in Las Vegas, this is a picture of our booth. We had 375 meetings with retail real estate professionals at this conference. That's not including the meeting I had with the mayor. These are strictly meetings we had on behalf of our clients. If the mayor wanted to go each year for 30 years, that's how long it would take to duplicate what we did in 2.5 days, just because of the size of our firm and what we're doing on behalf of our clients. But coming up are critical opportunities for Watertown, ICSC Texas, October 6th and 7th, Chicago, 19th and 20th, and then New York, which New York is the national show. Recon is the worldwide show, and New York is the national show. So those are opportunities we can get in front of retailers on your behalf to tell them about what's going on in Watertown. Because as I told the mayor when I got here, it feels different when you're on the ground. It feels like you're somewhere. You're not just in another town. You're in Watertown, and that's a story that needs to be told. We create a marketing guide on your behalf that'll help sell the community. This answers the top 10 questions that a retailer is going to ask us. And on the flip side of the document is all the national and regional retailers identified, because one of the key things that a retailer is going to ask is, well, what's my co-tenancy going to be like? So you can show them the site next to the Hobby Lobby, across from the Target, just down the road from Walmart, just down the road from the mall, etc. So after all that, what we hope is the results and the growth. And the strategy is going to be continuously updated. We don't hand you a final deliverable because things are going to change. Your market's going to change. The mall is going to change. The land next to Hobby Lobby is going to be developed into something. And that's going to make us have to adjust our strategy because your gaps are going to change. What you can attract is going to grow. In addition, retail expansion and the trends, what's going on in retail, that's going to change. You know, a year ago, Sports Authority could have been a great candidate to come to Watertown. Now they're bankrupt and they aren't doing any more stores. So, you know, as retailers close, as retailers open, as retailers announce expansions and smaller footprint stores, we have to include that into what we are doing and to how we're approaching the market on your behalf. In addition, we become your research concierge. So if Jim Dugan wants me to run a mobile data study from his store, I'll do it for him and probably hand it to him that day. If Mike at Harry's wants me to do, you know, a 5-minute drive time from his restaurant, I'll do it for him and hand it to him probably in the same day. You know, we become that arm of your community that can provide that information at a moment's notice. So I'm going to take you through, I went over this last time, but it's how we recruited Dick's Sporting Goods to Moline, Illinois. So again, the same process that we're going to take care of: market analysis, strategy, proactive recruitment, then results in growth. You know, we saw there was a gap for sporting goods. Peer Communities had a major sporting goods retailer, and then there was a key piece of real estate, which happened to be in an indoor mall that could support a big box retailer. So what we did in the strategies, identified Dick's as a major prospect. The real estate criteria for Dick's Sporting Goods had it in Moline, and the psychographics show that Dick's consumers were in the market. So we then began the proactive recruitment, connecting with the mall manager, providing custom research and analytics, and leveraging our contacts at Dick's. And we helped push that deal across the finish line. I think it's doing about $10+ million in sales, added 50+ jobs for the community. And it took an underutilized piece of real estate in an indoor mall and added a quality tenant to it. So again, same process that we would propose to take here is what we would want is what we did in Moline. And you know what the broker said is that, look, I represent, you know, land and space in multiple communities, but because Moline has partnered with Retail Strategies, they can be seen. They stand out above others because they're getting marketed better. Ray, who's our client in Moline, gave us the credit for closing the deal. You know, Dick's was interested in Moline before we got there. I'm not going to say that we, you know, were the reason Dick's located in Moline. But what we did was we created an environment for that deal to happen, which was not there before, and helped push that ball across the finish line. So key takeaways, you know, research is critical, but real estate's always going to win. You know, research can support it, but it has to support the real estate. It doesn't work the other way. Retail recruitment is a challenge. It's economic development, but it is a commercial real estate function. You need to align yourself with retail real estate professionals that can help you navigate the deal process. Retail recruitment is a marathon. I wish I could tell you that we were going to have, you know, something in the market in the next 6 months. We can help push something that's right there over the line, but as far as locating a new retailer, it's an 18 to 36 month process. With the new retail that you guys have seen recently, I'm sure you're aware of that time frame. But you know, right now 70% of retailers are going to expand this year. So it's a great time to get in the game. You know, when a retailer is expanding, they'll do a new store in your market, but when a retailer and there's an economic, you know, downturn, they're not going to do any new stores. But if they have a store in Watertown, they can find a way to make that store successful by, you know, moving around their goods and price points, et cetera. So it's a great time to be recruiting retail. But, you know, in closing, you know, we went to the Redland Arts Center. The mayor drove me around the rink, the new where the rinks are going to be built in the ball fields. We spoke with Nancy Turbeck and the law firm, and how they renovated that old post office. And you know, Watertown has an incredible story, and there is a lot of potential here. And we'd love to be your partner to take that story out and get it in front of people, investors, retailers, and restaurants that should be considering the market. With that, I'll thank you again for your time and answer any questions that you have for me.
Matt, roughly how many, and I realize it varies, roughly how many communities are you working with at any one particular time?
We have 115 communities under contract currently. We have 30 members to our team. I think that's about a 4-to-1 client to staff ratio. You know, we've been in business for 4.5, 5 years now, and we have 30 individuals. Our competitors have been in business for 12+ years and, you know, don't have the manpower that we do. We believe in providing a hands-on service. We understand that, you know, what we're doing, it takes people getting that in front of retailers. It takes connections. It takes contacts. You know, anybody can send out a mass email. The mayor is a member of ICSC. He can look up any retailer in the country in their database and find their email address, but it doesn't give him the personal relationship that allows him the time to explain what the opportunity is in the market.
Just an observation, with that many that you're working with at any one time and roughly 30 members within your group, I mean, does that allow you enough time to adequately work with each individual one?
Oh, yes, sir. Absolutely.
So Matt, do you assign a specific project manager? And if you do that, do you know who that would be for us
Yeah.
from your team?
Yes, sir. It was Beth Miller, and I'll go back to that slide that has our whole team. It would be Beth Miller. She would be assigned to the community, as well as Clay Craft and Ford Fitz and the executive team. At any one time, I mean, you'll have 15 plus people having a hand in this partnership on a regular basis.
Could
That
you go ahead?
That 115 communities, what's the breakout population-wise? What's that look like?
Great question. 33% are under 20,000. Another 40% are between 20,000 and 60,000, and then the remainder, 17%, is above 60,000 in population. So Watertown is right in the sweet zone of what we look at, and the reason why is because, you know, when you look at Watertown, I think I said this earlier, if you go on LoopNet or any of these retail real estate sites, the product that Watertown has isn't available online. So essentially, it's not that you're being overlooked, but if I'm a developer or a retailer or a broker, I don't get paid more money by going and finding something off the beaten path, something that's not visible to me. I get paid, you know, my fee by locating a retailer. So the easier it is for me to locate in a certain place, that's where I'm going to go, because that's what I'm incentivized to do. But essentially, a market like Watertown, you know, if you're properly marketed, I think that you're going to see a lot of growth, because I think that, again, that there's a lot of potential and a lot of good pieces of property that are available.
Matt, what community are you currently working with in South Dakota?
We are not working with any communities in South Dakota.
Oh,
Again, we're a 5-year-old firm. We've grown out of Birmingham, so we've grown in a very structured manner. We've added 5 people to our team this year, and those people, again, have a retail, real estate, or municipal background. We don't hire people out of college that come in and don't know what they're doing. Certainly, there is a learning process in any new position, but this is our first real reach into South Dakota, and we think this is the right community to do it with because of what the opportunities are in this community.
Can you elaborate? I mean, can you provide us with any information, any data of successes that you've had with similar sized communities?
Absolutely.
And who you have brought to their communities for retail?
Absolutely. So, I mean, you know, when you're talking about 175,000 in a trade area, I would go back to Augusta, Georgia. I believe they're going to have over 100,000 in their trade area. And we helped locate a Zoe's Kitchen, a World of Beer, a Witch. Whoop. Well, in addition, you know, Jacks Beach, Florida, which is just south of Jacksonville Beach, is going to have a very large trade area as well. We were able to recruit another Broken Egg, which is a fast casual breakfast and lunch concept, as well as a Whole Foods located in the market that we targeted. Lake City, Florida, we've helped recruit Jimmy John's and others. They're much like you. They're, you know, located on an interstate at a Main and Main. You know, they probably trade, you know, 60,000. Florida is more of a densely populated area. We've helped recruit them there, and then there's several others that I'm sure if I go back and ask the guys that are, you know, doing that on a daily basis, that I can provide you.
So you could provide us a list of similar sized communities
Oh,
and
yes,
the
sir.
successes, the folks that you have brought to those communities.
Yes, sir. And I think I probably even connected the mayor with a couple of communities that are similar to you already, where we've had success and that are renewing our agreements as well.
Thank you.
This would be your first step into South Dakota. Our number one industry is agriculture. Number 2 is tourism. How does that spin into your process that you guys use?
Certainly. So it's looking at, obviously, the type of consumer. So an agricultural consumer is different than, you know, a metropolitan consumer. Joe Kacharski, he runs our Green Bay office. He's been doing work in South Dakota. He knew 9th Avenue because he's been here before. So we're familiar with, you know, the state, even though we haven't worked here as retail strategies. Tourism, we're working in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and we've just delivered a tourism packet to them based upon the mobile data collection. So showing the where consumers are coming from on a monthly basis and how that changes over the course of a year. So being able to package that for a retailer and show them that, you know, what they're looking at in base population and trade area can change. I think we were at the Julie at the Redland Art Center was telling us at how many visitors they have per year, and I know they have a log book, but I'm sure we could do the mobile data collection from there as well to show exactly what's going on.
How did, with your quick drive through our community today, did, you know, some of the companies that you have a relationship with, did you say, wow, how do they not have this company? Did any companies come to mind right away? I know it's early,
Well,
but
it's early, and as soon as I say something, it could get in the paper that, oh, so-and-so's coming to town. That's always fun. So, you know, across from Target, I mean, TJ Maxx, Kohl's, sometimes an organic type grocer. Those are three that came up immediately. I didn't see Aldi. They may be here, though. That's one that typically would be in a market like this. So those are just some of the national brands. Chipotle was one that I didn't see that I was like, you know, thought that was something. Obviously, Qdoba's here, so that could be a reason. They got here first. Some of those other fast casual concepts as well.
I think one of the things, Matt, that has intrigued me about your company is that it's more of a partnership with the city. It's you're bringing these companies. I mean, you're marketing Watertown, and you're working closely with Watertown. It isn't like you just send us out a letter and say, well, you should contact Joe at Trader Joe's and or something to that effect. You're not doing that. You're actually working with these companies, setting up the appointments. We could have the meeting in Las Vegas or New York or wherever it might be. Is that where I'm understanding that to work?
Absolutely. You know, we refer to ourselves as an extension of city staff. When we have our kickoff call, which I guess we're getting close to football season, so that phrase works pretty well now, but when we have our kickoff call, you know, one of the things we close with is that we are an extension of you. So whatever needs, whatever questions you have, you're going to have access to Beth, Clay, Ford, myself. You're going to have all of our cell phone numbers. You're going to have all of our email addresses. We have a project management site that you can email us all at one time if you so choose to do so. But we want you to look at us as an extension of your city staff, and that's what we want to become. And again, this is not a project. Projects are things that start and finish. This is a partnership, and we hope that, you know, our year-to-year, 3-year agreement is a 20-year agreement. But we understand that we have to provide value for you guys to renew our contract for the second year. And then in that second year, we better provide more value. So that's what we're here to do and hope to have the privilege to do so.
And how often do you meet with, like, the city, for instance? There's probably one or two of us that would probably be on this, you know, working for retail, and then we would be having meetings with you. How often do you have those?
Whenever you want. I'm on a call tomorrow morning. They asked one of my new clients, Oviedo, Florida, sent us an email and said, hey, we're going Florida ICS season 3 weeks from today. It's the largest conference for cities in Florida, and they had an opportunity and said, hey, can we hop on a call tomorrow? And we said, absolutely. What time works for you? And obviously we got to coordinate schedules, but 9 a.m. ended up working, 8 a.m. our Central Time, so that'll be a good wake-up call. But it's whenever you need them. As far as being in the market, because I don't want to provide you a pricing structure that says we're going to be here 4 times in the first year and go ahead and input that price into our pricing structure. There are 3 trips, 1 per year, that are set out in the agreement. Any other trips that you'd like for us to make are just paid for by the city. Reimbursement for travel expenses, et cetera. But, you know, with ICSC Recon and that trip, will be connecting with you face-to-face at least twice a year. But again, with Skype, with conference calls, with all of those other opportunities, we're always accessible. And again, the way our contract is written, the way our partnerships work is, if you want a written report to provide to council, all that we ask is 5 business days notice that so that we can prepare that. We have all this information in notes and in Base Camp and in all these places, but putting it together in something that we'll stamp our name on is something that we just ask to have a little time so that we can make it pretty and hand it to you, as well as, you know, we don't want to give too much away, so we have to make sure that the information can be shared in a public setting, and that takes a little time to go through and come through that.
I thought it was interesting today when we were driving around and we were looking at different areas, and you know, we went up through the community center and off to the east there on that, and you just, you know, I could see wheels spinning. It was something that, you know, I could see a vision of something going over here, or something on this particular side, or a village going on, just something to that effect, and it was exciting to take that spin.
Absolutely. And yeah, it was great. I mean, what you guys have going on from a quality of life perspective with the new community center, with I think it's the new elementary school. I mean, that's incredible. And you know, retailers, their primary job, what they want to do is make money, but those things do matter. I mean, you know, having that quality of life is incredibly important, and I think it's going to help you attract citizens as you continue to move forward, because millennials, what they say they're going to do, and I told Craig earlier, because he was talking about how he's primary job focused, and I said, well, you know, millennials don't really move for a job anymore. They move where there's quality of life. So when you combine Craig's efforts and what he's doing, what the WDC is doing, with the retail that you have, not only the national retailers that you're attracting like Hobby Lobby, but you know, the brewery and Harry's and Common Ground and Charlie's, and you put all those things together, you're going to be a very attractive place to live for the foreseeable future. And if you continue to build on that, Watertown's going to continue to grow and become an even better community, and just adds to the amenities that you already have.
So Matt, you said it would take 30 months maybe to
A
connect
real
with
estate,
somebody?
Yes,
Is
sir.
that-
A real estate transaction could take anywhere from 18 to 36 months. A retailer, I'm going to use an example, Dunkin' Donuts, can move a lot quicker than a Target can, just because of the size of what's going on. With the opportunities that you have with that land, you know, next to the Hobby Lobby, I would assume that 36 months would be a good time frame for something to come out of the ground there. You have other infill opportunities throughout the community. You know, I do think that we'll see success sooner, but I can't guarantee that. If I could guarantee you that, I wouldn't be sitting here. We'd just be up here developing all the land. But, you know, our job is to identify tenants that are interested in the market, that are going to add quality of life and not cannibalize the current businesses that you have here, but maximize the opportunity by continuing to have the trade area that you have. I mean, certainly you have Brookings to the south, that if they recruited, you know, retailer that you had, that you were drawing people from south to come up here and shop, if they've cut them off there, then that diminishes your trade area. So we want to continue to keep that trade area as large as it is, if not even larger, by attracting more quality tenants to the community.
One of the things that you had mentioned while we were over at the Goss and we were looking in the theater, and you said something about how you would like to see a group of developers come in, that you would bring in, fly them into Watertown on ADI, and yeah, y'all caught that, right? Fly them into Watertown on ADI and just take them for a tour of Watertown, so they understand what's here and what we have to offer. And you've done that in other communities.
Well, I use an example of not where we did it, but a developer that actually, Beth Miller, who would be the primary point of contact for you all, a company she used to work with, Bayer, which is a development firm and develops major shopping centers throughout the country. They're opening one in Louisville, Kentucky, and they flew in a lot of the retailers that were looking at the site and took them on a whiskey tour and all the, you know, things about Louisville. So as I was saying, yeah, there we go. So as I was saying to the mayor, I said, you know, you have such a good story to tell, and if somebody's going to come all this way, it'd be good to have something in place where you say, hey, you're coming into town to look at the site. If you don't want to meet with us, still go check out Charlie's, or go check out, you know, uptown or downtown. I'm not sure which one we're calling, downtown. So go check out these places and show them Watertown, because again, as I told the mayor, when you walk into Charlie's and when you walk into, you know, Harry's and I wish we could have walked into the brewery, you don't feel like you're in Watertown. You feel like you're in a place. You feel, you know, having that sense of place, and I think that can help sell the community and position you ahead of others.
I'd like to just, again, piggyback off of all the discussion. I think bringing people into town to just kind of walk around and get a feel for the community or drive around, but taking, Charlie's maybe as a starting point. I think if we were able to provide the visitors that are coming from the development or whatever with perhaps a business building inventory, what's empty, what do we have, how big is it, how many stories, is there places for people to live above it, things like that. If we were able to put together a building inventory like that, would that be something that, go take a look, and we may even be able to coordinate with some of the building owners to get them to be able to give a tour. I mean, so is that something that it sounds like,
That's a fantastic point, and one that I should have made earlier. When we do our real estate analysis, we identify these properties, and then once we identify the property, we begin calling on those property owners or if it has a sign, we call on the broker who is listing the property to see what the square footage is. What are they asking for rents? Is it triple net? Get all the deal terms, because that's what a retailer is going to need. If you don't have that information available, you're just creating another step, and you don't need to create another step. So it's a great point. When somebody comes to the community, they're going to know what size of facility they want within, give or take, 1,000 square feet at most. That's how we're going to get them to the community, to be quite honest. No one's going to come to Watertown just to drive around and try to find a space. It's going to be because we showed them an area of town that they should be interested in, and then they're going to fly here and figure it out. And it may be on a DI, or it may more than likely on a private jet, but you guys will be able to take care of them.
Kind of a follow-up to that. I see the badges on your screen and the companies you work with, and it's an impressive list, and there's some of those that we would like to have here.
Certainly.
Contrast that, though, with downtown. What can you do downtown? Because it's a different animal, traffic counts, not next to the Hobby Lobby, all those kinds of things. Because, we'd like to see some things happen downtown.
Certainly, and it's a great question. And your first comment, the logos that were underneath our pictures, those are retailers and brokerage houses that we worked for before coming to Retail Strategies. Those are not ones that we work with intimately. Retail Strategies works 100% with municipalities and public entities across the country. Okay. Your question was about the downtown. I'm sorry. I got up early this morning, took 3 flights to get here. 9th Avenue is how you're going to get them off the interstate. Having the big box retailer or the name brand retailer that they can't get in their own community, and then if you can funnel them into the downtown. As far as national, regional opportunities in downtown, there certainly are some. What happens, though, is a lot of times the economics of building a new facility is cheaper than retrofitting a current space in the downtown. There are some retailers that are more apt to do that, like a sandwich shop where there's not a whole lot that you need to do. But again, in Augusta, Georgia, we've been able to help and create Dunkin' Donuts and Which, again, two that doesn't cost much for them to retrofit. So those opportunities are going to be more limited. Certainly, we're going to go after them on your behalf. But again, it's just being realistic with you instead of just blowing smoke and telling you something.
I was going to ask if anybody in the audience has a quick question. We're kind of running close on time here. Anybody out there got a question they want to ask Matt while he's here? He's wide open. No? Hearing none? That public part's closed. No. You guys got any more questions? Otherwise,
I've got one more, Mayor. Matt, you've been in existence about 5 years, you said roughly, but you've got people that have a lot of experience. There must be. Are you doing something different to attract the team that you have from other areas in the industry? Are you doing something unique out there, or because I am impressed with the experience that your team members have?
It's the culture of our company. Our phrase is, if I say I will, I will. We're people of our word. If I'm sitting here promising you we're going to do X, Y, and Z, you better bet that we're going to do X, Y, and Z. All of our partnerships, I believe, of our 115, we think we've had full service clients about 135. So 115 are still under contract with us today, and even the ones that have left us for whatever reasons, they're still going to tell you that we did exactly what we said we were going to do, and that we were represented their community in a first-class way. Certainly, we don't ever want to lose a client. That's something we don't take lightly. We do exit interviews with every client to make sure that we're always improving. But luckily, we don't have to do too many exit interviews because we do exactly what we say we're going to do. However, our contracts are year to year. If it was up to us, they'd be 30 years long, and there's no way either of us could get out of it because we'd be great partners to one another. But the reality is there's economic changes. Cities have limited budgets, and we understand that. But our job is to provide value, to make this an investment, not a cost, and be your partner for a long, long time.
I got one, Steve, which it might have been asked when we had the Skype, but you said Watertown's the only one in South Dakota, and I know we've asked this of some of the other ones, is we would feel uncomfortable if you were representing somebody else close by, because then it gets to be a little bit too who are you going to choose deal. So.
Yes, sir. So we would obviously exclude certain communities that Brookings, I'm sure, would be one that you would want to exclude, and not sure of others. But we would either spell those out in the contract or put a radius ring. Typically, we just spell them out because it's just easier that way. It makes you guys feel more comfortable, and we
Yeah,
understand
we were
that.
thinking Aberdeen, Sioux Falls, Rapid City,
Yeah.
kinda-
Yeah,
kinda all
Minneapolis,
those.
yeah, all those,
I'm just,
right?
I'm just throwing it out there, okay? Yeah. Any other questions, you guys? Matt, thanks for being here. It was
Absolutely.
a very good presentation. We appreciate it. I'm
All
sure
right.
we're going to be in touch.
Absolutely.
Much more interactive in person than on Skype.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. No, as I told the mayor, when he asked me if I could Skype, I said, well, sure, I can Skype. But then, I wanted to be here. I wanted to put my feet on the ground. I wanted to see the community, because if you guys are going to give us the opportunity to sell you, I want to make sure that I can come back and tell Beth and to tell Clay and others, what's going on here. And, as I told the mayor, we love going to places where we can come in and do our boots on the ground analysis, but also spend the night and have a good time. And it definitely looks like we can do that in Watertown. So we're excited about the opportunity to hopefully be your partner. But I gave all of you guys my card. So if you have any questions that you didn't get to ask or think about tomorrow morning, give me a call. I'm always available.
Just a quick one. Did you get a chance to look at the H2O vision plan the community did a few years ago?
No, sir, I have
All right.
not.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. And what we could do is and I think that's on our website, is it not? Yeah, either on WGC, Community Foundation, it's out there. It's on yours, Craig? H2O,
I don't think it's on ours yet.
okay. So if you go on that community center one, Watertown, you'll find it. It's
Perfect.
a great
Perfect.
report.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Well, thank you very, very much.
Thank you all so much. I appreciate
All
it.
right, see ya.
Thank you all.
Okay, I don't have a lot. I wrote something down here if we have time. I'm not sure if we really do have the kind of time that is needed for something like this. But I thought I would just update you a little bit on the Watertown Mall, on what's going on with the parking lot and such. In fact, Matt and we drove through it today. We have sent the city guys out there, kind of patch some of the major holes on that road. But I just wanted to update you and let you know that I believe we are currently getting all the stakeholders together again to see where we're at on bringing that road into the city, if there's any appetite at all on that, and see if the stakeholders have an appetite to put dollars into that. I know that one of the things that Shane and I have discussed, if that will be brought up in the meetings, is if we were to ever do anything, we'd expect the mall to repair that parking lot before we'd ever work on a road of any kind. So I just wanted to bring you up to date on that we are going to visit with those folks. And we've had conversations with them. Another quick thing before we adjourn here. This is kind of a weird month when you look at our council meetings. We have the 1st and the 15th, and then we have 3 weeks with nothing. We do have some budget talks in the 20s of this month, but I would like, if it's okay with you guys, because we have some things that I think are important, and to wait 3 weeks is too long. On the 29th of August, I would like to have another work session, if it's okay with you guys, to come in at 5:30 till 7:30 or 8 o'clock. There's some major things that I just think we'd like to get a handle on and talk about. But I'm just thinking 3 weeks is a long time, if that's all right. Same time, 5:30. You guys okay with that? On the surface? Well, we don't need those guys. We'll see where that all goes. But I would like to, I just think 3 weeks is a long time to be without some conversation. So we'll take a look at, and see how that goes, but at this time, I will adjourn. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Monday, August 1st, 2016 City Council meeting. At this time, I will call the meeting to order. And Pastor Janine from the Hosanna Lutheran Church, if you'll lead us in prayer. Thank you.
Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for your Son Jesus, who told Pilate that no authority is given unless from above. We thank you that you have raised up these leaders for their willingness to serve, for the greater good, for the citizens of Watertown. Give them insight and wisdom, direct their discussions and deliberations, and bless the work that they do, that they might be your instruments of good in this community, in the state, and even in the world, Lord. We thank you for this opportunity to gather and do this work, all this with grateful hearts. We pray in the name of Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Janine. And Shelley, will you do roll call for us?
I can. Albertson?
Here.
Bueller?
Here.
Danforth?
Here.
Manti? Here. Riefenberger?
Here.
Roby?
Here.
Solem?
Here.
Thorson?
Here.
Tupper?
Here.
Vilhauer?
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Shelley. At this time, I'll look for a motion and a second for approval of the consent agenda. Motion by Glenn, or, I'm sorry, motion by John, second by Glenn. Any questions, any changes? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Number 2, approval of the agenda. I'll look for a motion and a second. Motion by Beth, second by Mike. Any questions, any changes on this? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Number 3, application for a transfer of location of a retail on-off sale malt beverage license for M&M Foxy's Incorporated, doing business as Foxy's at 137 5th Street Northeast. At this time, I will open the public hearing. If there's anyone who wants to speak in favor of or against this is your opportunity. Hearing none, I will close the public hearing. I'll look for a motion and a second for discussion. Motion by Bruce, second by Mike. Any questions on this?
Why is this considered a transfer?
I believe he has an inactive license.
No, anytime that you move the legal description of a license, the state considers it a transfer, so it's.
What, I've read this a couple times today, and I gotta be honest, it's still not clear to me exactly what we're doing on this. Both of these licenses have been in place at the same location, correct? There's 2 licenses, okay.
Yes.
So has this been going on errantly for a period of time, or what? I just don't understand what.
No, not to my knowledge.
Roger, do you want to come up and talk about it? Okay.
Yeah.
Why don't you come up to the speaker and,
State your name too, Roger.
yeah,
Although we all know it.
name, date of birth, things like that. We just got to know. Yeah.
Roger Meyer. My wife and I own Foxy's, and I think where the confusion comes in, when we bought Foxy's 11 years ago, it only had a malt beverage license with video lottery attached to it. And then I think within 2 or 3 years of that time, we purchased a liquor license with video lottery attached to it. So it pretty made my malt beverage license pretty much dormant, I feel, because the liquor license covered the video lottery machines we have. And some of the other places you've seen with dual licenses, like Midtown, Little River City, we're just activating those other licenses. And to do that at Foxy's, we had to make a physical address, like she said, to transfer it. And then on the casino side of Foxy's, I could have 10 machines if this transfer goes through. And on the other side, I could have 10 machines with my liquor license if I chose, which I do not want that many machines. We've talked about 13 is the number me and the vendor that I deal with this come up with. And it just, to me, it just utilizes that malt beverage license that, to me, kind of went dormant when I added the liquor license on top of it. And that's kind of why we've got the approval and went through the deal to get the separate address. And it's just really actually to add a few more machines to the business.
And they physically have to be separated?
Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, if hearing no more questions, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Raj.
Thanks for coming.
Number 5, proposed lease agreement with Chris Hanton for lots 1. Here, I crossed that off already, guys. I'm so far ahead of myself. We'll cross Foxy's out of there. Number 4, vacation finale adjacent to lots 2 and 19 and the northern halves of lot 3 and 18 within Lakeview Addition, Block 2, as petitioned by Prairie Lakes Healthcare Systems. At this time, I will open the public hearing if there's anyone here that wants to speak in favor of or against this. Hearing none, I will close the public hearing. I'll look for a motion and a second.
So moved.
Motion by Bill or Randy, and then Dan. Any questions on that? Maybe, Justin, you want to fill us in just a little bit what's going on, or Shane, one of you?
I can, Mayor. This is the remaining portion of the alley that we previously vacated, most of it, the majority of it. The Prairie Lakes Health System is in the process of purchasing this lot that was unavailable to them when they did their initial petition for vacation. So they now have a purchase agreement, and that purchase is pending here shortly. Both petitioners have signed it, both Prairie Lakes Health System and the owner of this property have signed the petition, so there's no reason to deny it, and we've brought it through the Planning Commission and now on to you with the recommendation to complete the vacation process. And there will be no need to maintain an easement for utilities because all of the lots that were previously served by utilities are no longer there.
Okay, any questions for Shane? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Now we'll move over to number 5. Proposed lease agreement with Chris Hanton for lots 1 and 9 in the Hanton Industrial Park. At this time, I will open the public hearing if there's someone who wants to speak in favor of or against this. Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. I will look for a motion and a second for discussion. Motion by Beth, second by John. Any questions on this? This is kind of interesting. We had already had some leases. There's actually two pieces of property here, Justin. I'm going to kind of fill in a little bit. And what had happened, we had like 13 acres, and he'll give you the exact numbers. We had leased it for $1, and then the other 13 or 17 acres we had leased for $282 and something. What we did is we talked to Chris and said, what's the chances of doing 2/3, 1/3 on the bales so they can go to the zoo? The zoo needs the hay, and he was all in favor of, and he will deliver that hay to the zoo. So Justin, if you want to give him the exact numbers for acreage and what's going on, it's all you.
If I could first have the screen show Shane's computer, quick. Will do, Mayor. So what you see before you is Exhibit A to the draft lease, and it's kind of it's kind of difficult to follow, but the lots in question are Lot 1, which you can see over on the right-hand side. It's a triangular, odd-shaped lot, and then a portion of Lot 9 to the west. And what we're talking about here is essentially this portion, you see where you have that sort of dashed line crossing there as a T. It'd be that portion of Lot 9 to the west of where that T is. In there and down to the west. So Lot 1, as indicated by the plat, has an approximate acreage of 17.4, and that portion of Lot 9, which is, again...
Hey, Shane, can you put that on a different screen so we can see there you go. Bring that in so we can see exactly where it is. Some are asking if it's within the rail spur or out of the spur, and we just kind of need to know where that's at.
Sure. And it is outside the spur. It's to the west of the spur. I can see if we can show you.
Okay, so lot 1 is this triangular piece over here. And lot 9 is a portion of this area. It's this area right in here.
Yeah, that's the portion denoted under the legal description there. That portion is approximately 17.5 acres. So if that gives you an idea of the amount of hay we're talking about. The term, in keeping with earlier agreements with the Hantons, there's reference to the 2016 crop year, and just to clarify, that has a specific industry meaning. And for hay crop, that would be May 1st to April 30th. So it would be May 1st, 2016 to April 30th of 2017. If the council so approves, we'll make sure that Mr. Hanton knows exactly who to contact at the Bremel Park Zoo to deliver the hay. So,
any questions for Shane or Justin?
I'm still confused. This is all outside the rail spur area?
Oh, yeah. You got the 20th Avenue there that goes
But
east
doesn't
and
it butt up against South Broadway, though? On
Okay, the rail is all within this property right here.
and then
This is a parcel over by
that's
South
Lyle's.
81.
I think that's Lyle's right on the corner, right there. That's Lyle's, I believe. So we're right behind his.
Okay.
What? What is it Lyle? Delisle's, yeah, that's his business right there. It's right behind. And actually, we have actually proposed that we can get an access off of Highway 81 onto that property of ours, because right now we have none, do we not, Shane?
I don't think we do at this time.
Yeah, we don't. So that's where he's haying it. Any other questions for Shane? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Mike, the animals love you at the zoo. Did you hear what he said? Otters do not eat hay. Okay, moving on. Number 6, first reading of ordinance number 16-12, amending section 21.0202 of Title 21 regarding zoning for the city of Watertown. This actually came up on kind of an interesting process that happened to the Board of Adjustments. And Randy, I'm going to let you kind of visit about it just a little bit before we go too far, and then I'll have Justin fill in the real details.
Yeah, I did receive a call. I remember I was at that Board of Adjustments meeting for some reason that day, and I remember this coming through, and then about 11 months later, I received a call from some neighbors down the street, and they said this guy's building a garage, but he's never been given permission to do it, so I went down there and visited with him that night. And of course, the next morning I started following up with it, and he had received a building permit through the city. Everything was done. Every step of it was done on a legal matter. Nobody stepped outside their right. What happened though was the guy first went before the Board of Adjustments in May of 2015. At that time, it was tabled. They told him to go back and get necessary permission for right-of-way. 11 months later, he comes back before the Board of Adjustments, and it gets brought off the table, and of course, there was nobody there to oppose it. And he was given the variance that he needed to build it. Actually, the garage is 1.5 feet off the adjoining property owner's property line. Their question to me was, why weren't we ever notified? After I went through all, checked with all the departments and everything was done right, why weren't we notified? And of course, that was my question. So I got with Steve and I got with Justin, and I was really kind of dumbfounded how we go 11 months and not notify before this came back up again. And it was like I say, everything was done on the up and up. I just thought that 11-month period was a little bit too long. The guy says, well, I don't even get the paper. So he thought it was a dead deal, and all of a sudden the guy's building a garage in his backyard. So I think we've come to a pretty good resolution on this. So I'll let Justin kind of go over what our proposal is, I should say. And
Thank you, sir. As you know, whenever we're talking about zoning ordinances and changes, there are protocols, generally speaking, about there being need for public notice, there being need for the Plan Commission to take a look. This is a rather unique zoning ordinance revision because unlike most amendments, this revision doesn't pertain to zoning district boundaries, and so therefore isn't the kind of zoning ordinance that would need that kind of advance notice for public hearing, as well as the Plan Commission to take a look at it. And that's, just for the record, per revised ordinance 210209 and South Dakota Codified Law 1144 and 1161 subpart 11. This process in coming up with this language here entailed going back and forth between the Board of Adjustment, between folks in city government, talking to Randy and Mayor Thorson, and getting an idea of what all the parties felt was a workable solution. That was, number one, proper notice to all the parties involved in the proceedings so that an incident like what happened there that Randy spoke to wouldn't happen again. But then also to ensure that efficiencies were had in city government, that there wouldn't be a great deal of cost because mailing, providing that sort of personal notice could get quite expensive. So we feel like a happy medium was reached here. I sent out a copy of the handout, which now is up on the board, and obviously background is more for the public as to what the Board of Adjustment is all about. But I think it's important to point out, as you know, that the three main processes that are spelled out in our ordinances for the Board of Adjustment are with appeals generally under Title 21, decisions made by the board or the building official. So appeals from the building official's decisions generally go before the Board of Adjustment. In most cases, there are some where that's not the case, but the second is hearing requests for conditional uses, and the third is hearing requests for variances. Now, when we talk about notice, there are two means for providing notice. One is publication, which we have set out in ordinance clearly, and it comports with statute that there needs to be that 10 days prior notice published in the paper of what the Board of Adjustment's agenda is going to be. The second is a certified letter to the adjacent landowners. Adjacent meaning next to, either across a right-of-way or abutting the property where the individual is seeking a variance or seeking a conditional use. So those are the two forms, one to the public generally, one to the landowners most likely impacted by the decision of the Board of Adjustment. So to address the issue that Randy brought up and, to talk about what aspects needed to be handled in this revision, the first here depicts kind of what the current system, the current ordinance provides, which that there is no requirement for when those certified letters need to exactly be filed with the Board of Adjustment. And the certified letters have a receipt as many of you know, as proof that it was sent to the landowner or to the person it was supposed to be sent to. Well, under our ordinances, all that was required is that the receipts be deposited with the board. Because in this process, we came to find out that it wasn't the applicants who are requesting the variance or the conditional use that were sending out this notice, but rather the city on behalf of the applicants, we just decided that, that needs to be provided in ordinance. We need to make sure that ordinance reflects reality. So first, as pointed out here, made sure that 5 days' notice was provided with this certified letter, meaning the receipts would be provided within 5 days of the hearing. So we make sure that there is that additional notice period. The second part is, like I said, ordinance now reflects that the city can provide this notice by certified letter, and that, and this is under the second bullet here, that the applicant will reimburse the city for the notice, for that particular type of letter notice. And so the other point that we had included in here gets really to the heart of what Randy was talking about, which is that there was no procedure for notice to adjacent landowners when something was continued for a long period of time before the Board of Adjustment. And per Robert's rules, you can table something, you can continue it. There are a number of different ways to say, we aren't going to deal with it at this meeting, we're going to deal with it at a future meeting. Well, we initially thought, let's just see if we can, make sure that we have to send out letters every time something's continued so that the adjacent landowners know when that item has been continued to. And so they get a letter every time before the hearing saying, hey, you should be on notice. Well, realizing how expensive that would get and that cost would then be placed upon the applicant, started to realize that would be an undue cost. And so with that, we thought a good compromise would be that the board would set a date certain at the meeting that they continue anything, so that those who are there, the adjacent landowners that were already given notice to be there to contest something they didn't like, would then be on notice at the hearing that this was continued to a specific date. And should the board not provide that date certain, because obviously there needs to be flexibility, then they would be required to provide by first-class mail a notice to the adjacent landowner before the continued hearing. So that, if it's continued to 5, 6, 7 months, or whenever the Board of Adjustment wants to bring something back onto the agenda, they would have to provide notice 5 days in advance by first-class mail to the adjacent landowners.
Okay. Thank you very much, Justin. So that was a first reading. This will be on your agenda next council meeting. I think it'll be a good thing. I really do. I think that it'll allow people to be better informed that something's coming up. All right, number 7, consideration of contingency transfer to the police department to replace a heat pump in the amount of $20,000.
Yes, $20,000. Good evening, Scott McMahon, Captain Sports Services, Watertown Police Department. The reason why we're here tonight is to ask for contingency funds in the amount of $20,000 to assist us in replacing an energy recovery unit, commonly referred to as a heat pump. Do you want me to give more information on it now, Mayor? Or?
I think what we'll do is we'll go ahead and get a motion in a second, and then we'll have discussion, and there'll be tons of questions for you. So I will look for a motion in a second on this. Motion by Bruce, second by Beth. All right, any questions that you have for Scott? Go ahead and explain a little bit further.
Just
Scott.
a little bit more history on it. Since we moved into the police department in 2011, we've had numerous problems related to air conditioning and heating issues. One particular unit that's been a problem is this energy recovery unit or heat pump unit. Over the course of the last 4 or 5 years, we've spent about $4,000, maybe a little more than $4,000, fixing leaks in the copper. And most recently, over the last year or so, it's been more related to the compressor part of that unit. The whole unit as a whole has a 1-year warranty, which of course expired a long time ago, and then the compressor had a 5-year warranty, and of course it didn't fail until a few months beyond that 5 years warranty. We have worked with 2 vendors here in town, local vendors, to try and persuade the company that manufactured that heat pump to give us some kind of warranty on it. However, those efforts were unsuccessful, and also myself and others at the police department have tried to get additional warranty, and those efforts were unsuccessful. So at this point, we don't feel that it's a good idea to invest more money into a problematic unit. More money would consist of a new compressor, which would be about $10,000. And the problem that we fear is if we put in a new compressor, we're going to have another copper leak deeper down inside this unit that's not going to be able to be repaired easily or at all. And then, of course, we'd have to replace the rest of it. So we feel it's in our best interest to follow the recommendation of a couple local vendors, heating and cooling vendors, to replace that unit. We did get 2 estimates. One was for an exact same unit as we have, and the other was for a different product. I have called the mechanical engineer that designed our heating and cooling system in our building and spoke with him, and he assured me that either unit would be, of course, compatible with our system as far as all the pressures and balances and things like that. So that's kind of where we're at the moment. I do have the vendor for this heat pump or this energy recovery unit coming to Watertown, hopefully yet, if not this week, next week, to just kind of look over our heating and cooling system at the police department, make sure everything's compatible, and then, of course, we'll move forward with your blessings.
So we are entertaining the idea of buying the same brand?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
We were
I
given-
may have misunderstood.
Yep,
Okay.
we were given 2 options. One was the exact same brand, and the other one was a different brand, and we're leaning towards the alternative brand.
What was the price difference, Scott?
There wasn't much price difference at all between the 2 brands. They're pretty comparable.
What's the typical life expectancy of something like this? I mean,
Well-
as you talk to these people, 5 years and a day, I suppose.
Well, no, the life expectancy is supposed to be 20 years. You're supposed to be able to recover your money after a little more than 5 years, recovered through energy savings, because what this unit does is when it's too cold for the outside chiller, the big chiller outside, to make cool air, when it gets below 45 degrees, that will not run. So then what this energy recovery unit does is it's got a compressor with Freon in it that produces cold air. And then, of course, we need cold air year-round for like server rooms, computer rooms, things like that need cool air. So that's where you see savings. And then in the fall and the spring of the year, where you don't really need the boilers to run, or you don't need them to run as often, this unit will circulate that heated water through the system so that the boilers don't have to keep running. So through that, you're supposed to get energy savings, and after about 5 years, it's supposed to pay for itself.
And you have had some humidity problems in there now.
Yeah, as a result of the heat pump not working for about the last 4 weeks, we've seen high humidity in the building, which of course is not a good situation. And the temperatures have been higher than normal. We can't get a good balance or regulate the air conditioning very well because all it's running is the outside chiller. And the heat pump is actually still circulating. It's just not making cold air. It's just circulating what's coming off the outside chiller into the building.
Scott, what's the brand that is defaulting on us, and what brand are we looking at?
The faulty version was manufactured by Florida Heat and Water, I believe is what it's called, Florida Heat and Water. And the new brand is called an Envision. The vendor for the Envision, like I say, they work with a local heat and cooling place, but the vendor is out of Sioux Falls for that particular unit. And that's what most of our local contractors do, is they have a supplier that supplies the larger equipment for them.
Any other questions for Scott? Okay, hearing none, I think I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks, Scott.
Yep.
Number 8, authorization for the mayor to sign truancy agreement with the Watertown School District for the 2016 and 2017 school year. What I'll do is I'll look for a motion in a second for discussion since we still have Scott here.
So moved.
Motion by Randy, second by Dan. Any questions you have for Scott, or do you want to give us a little idea about it?
Sure, just a little background on it. For as far back as I can remember, the Watertown Police Department has served as the truancy officers for the school district. It's been a little while since I've looked up that particular law, but there is a law pertaining to truancy, which basically means that a child-aged student goes to school but then leaves school, and that makes them truant. So at that point, the school district has contract with the police department to go and try and find that child and get them back to school and get them that education that they need. So we've been doing that for as far back as I can remember.
Any questions? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you,
You bet.
Scott.
Thank you.
Hey, you didn't do that back when I went to school because Dan used to come looking for me when I wasn't in school.
Dan did a pretty good job at making sure that those middle school students were in school like they're supposed to be, so. But when Dan's absent, we'll step in to take care of that.
Scott, what do you, on the truancy thing, is it a pretty stable percentage-wise of our school population, or are you seeing changes in that going up, going down? What are you seeing in the need for truancy based on historical versus today?
Sure. Well, I think Watertown, South Dakota is kind of that gem of South Dakota that we have a lot of good things happening in Watertown. And one of those good things is we have a quality school district that kids enjoy going to. And that's a big plus to live in a community where we don't have some of those problems that maybe appear in other school districts or other places in the United States. But I would say the truancy number is actually fairly low, and I would say it's not a real common problem. Probably most of the time when we deal with the truancy issue, it's a call to the parent's house, and maybe one parent thought the other parent was going to call the child in sick or whatever, or in this case, maybe they had an appointment, so they left school to go to an appointment. So those types of things, but not very often do we actually have kids that go to school and just leave for the day on their own and want to go out and cause mischief. That's just not the case in my mind. I think for the most part we have quality students and a quality system. So, yep.
Okay, well, thanks again, Scott. Number 9, authorization for the mayor to sign a professional service contract with Aquatic Design Solutions, better known as ADS, for design services on the Splash Park project in the amount of $12,500. Got Jay here. Jay, I'd like you to, if you could, you can explain what's going on and what we're looking at on this particular thing.
Well, basically, the splash park or splash pad, it can kind of go by either name. It's designed for younger kids generally. There'd be no standing water at this facility, and it's just a play feature where there'd be different aquatic features. Some would shoot water down, some would shoot water up. Quite often, there's a mechanism where they can spray water at each other, shooting it sideways, so it kind of goes all over the place. And one of the big issues as we've been working on this project is to determine a proper location for this thing. And we've discussed a lot of different possible locations, but the things we were looking for were a source for utilities, adequate parking, and bathroom facilities. And so now we're really looking at the McKinley Park area to the west of the Elks Lodge in the park there. You know, there's a lot of things going on there. There's a picnic shelter, there's a playground, so there's other things to do. A lot of activity in that park, always people there, so that's kind of bike trail, yeah. So there's a lot of activities, so we just feel that that's a pretty desirable location for the splash park.
Jay, what is required for that? I mean, is this just straight city water that comes from drinking water that sprays on them and goes down the drain and out to the plant, or what? Does it treat it in any manner? What's the?
Well, we want to design a recirculation unit so that we're recirculating the water through the system. And that's where the aquatic design folks, they would design solutions. That's where they'd start with the recirculation system. Else, if it's a flow-through system, that would require a very large volume of water.
It's basically same type of situation as swimming pool. It just, I mean, with all the filtering system and all that.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the same company that designed the current Family Aquatic Center, so.
Jay, I think one of the obvious questions is why doesn't it go by the current aquatic center?
Just wanted to have it in another location in town, you know, and then the McKinley Park location, a lot of summertime activities, baseball, softball, that type of thing on the west end of the community. So that would give them pretty good access to the park over there between games and that type of thing. And we wanted to keep it as a free feature so that anyone could come and enjoy.
Jay, the Park and Rec Board has discussed this, correct?
Yes, they have recommended approval.
And then you and I visited yesterday briefly on this. What we're acting on tonight is really independent of where it ultimately might go.
Correct.
Okay.
One of the things about the McKinley Park that we looked at also, we were concerned that it was in the floodway. This is something that Jay can address for us, or Shane can address when you put it on his screen. He can show you the actual location, what the floodplain, what the floodway is, and where there's possibilities. Now, if I'm not mistaken, it's easier to build in the floodplain than it is in the floodway, but you could actually put it in the floodway if you went no rise. Am I correct?
Yes, we wouldn't recommend that option, but the yellow zone is the floodway, which has got the highest restrictions on being able to place equipment in it. There's appears to be plenty of space outside of the floodway in this park that we could accommodate that splash park pretty well, and it will certainly be an attractive piece within this park. So.
What size are we looking at? What are we getting quotes for? 150 by 100? Give us a roundabout.
I don't think it would. I don't believe it would be that large, but until we let the folks start designing it, you know, I don't know just what size it would be, whether it would be 50 by 50 or 100 by 50 or what.
You gotta have some
Isn't
kind
it
of
kind of hard to
anticipation.
tell them to design something without giving them a size?
I
mean,
think they
it's-
actually
it's-
have they got the dollar amount that they know what we could spend on a project like that. That, you know, we had budgeted for this for the year 2016. So I think it will kind of be designed around the play features within and what we could really afford on this project. But, I mean, I guess I don't know how large it is either. I know I've looked at many of them online, and they look like fun.
Oh, yeah.
I think for old guys like Mike and I and Bruce, we could get out there playing that.
Jay, is this something that's like activated all the time and it's doing its thing, or how does this thing
We could set
work?
timers up on it that, you know, I don't know if that's 11 in the morning till 8 o'clock at night or however you would want to do it, but that's how we'd most likely do it, that it wouldn't be on 24 hours a day, but there would be timers that it would be on for,
And it could be that it's like spraying water all over when there's nobody there.
huh? I think we can design it that, you know, they'd have to be there to activate the features.
The people would be. I
Yeah.
mean, so if they got there, they'd push a button like
Yeah.
a sauna or something.
Yeah.
Or a whirlpool or something. So what's the operating cost on something like this, just out of curiosity?
Well, I've talked with Jody from Aquatic Design Solutions and asked him that question, and he estimated it would be in that $6,500 to $7,500 per year range.
Is there a lot of maintenance that goes with something like this, Jay?
Not really. It would just be the water and running the electricity to run the pumps and chemicals and that type of thing. Hopefully, there wouldn't be a lot of, you know, maintenance. There's vandalism or anything like that, but
Does this work with just like a storage system underneath the ground
Yeah,
that filters it? And it's like putting a swimming pool underneath and throwing it back up at you.
yeah.
Now, this might really be a stupid question, but if this was located, it's a pretty good chance, that if this were located by our aquatic center, could the water system that it takes to use this, could the current pool water be used and then recycled through its current system? So is it the same chemical treatment, the same processing? Because that goes through all that anyway, right?
Yeah, it does.
Would that be the same thing that we're doing, that you use that water and recycle it through the system? Because we're already doing it.
I'd really have to talk with the
I
aquatic
think-
design people to answer that.
I'm going to kind of address, because I understand where it's going. I don't disagree that you could probably use pool water to do this, Mike. I think you could use the same thing. The problem that we're running into, having it out to the pool area, is that there's just no room out there for something this large. We'd have to get rid of parking space. We'd have to either close a road, make some more parking, and we've talked about that. This is something that I think the public is looking for, where mom can take her 2-year-old or 3-year-old or 4-year-old or whatever, just ride their bikes down there and enjoy it, not have to go in and pay at the pool or even fight the traffic at the pool. So that's kind of why we're looking for something on this side of town versus taking it all down to the pool area. But I understand fully what you're saying.
Have we looked out by the, like, Cook Complex? I mean, it gets pretty hot out there at the Ball Diamonds. I tell you, some of those kids would like one of those out there. I mean, just an idea, I don't know.
It's a great idea, and I think that what's going to happen here is that this is going to go back in front of the park board. This is one idea where it can go. The park board is really going to come back with a suggestion of where it could go. We aren't making a decision tonight
No.
about where it's going, but that's been brought up. The Cook Complex is brought up. The pool has been brought up. McKinley's been brought up. The zoo has been brought up. There's just a lot of places where it could go. You know, you're going to be moving a lot of kids out of the parks that are going to go to Cook Complex this next year. So there could be Highland Park, could be Nelson Park. There's 100 different places to go. And I believe the board, John, you know this, you guys have talked about it. You're going to be discussing a location. And I think once they get a handle on where it could go, they may very well say, let's use the pool.
Well,
And they may very well want to talk to these people and say, like Mike suggested, can we use the same water rather than have a whole new circulation? Maybe you can have a bigger feature if you don't have to have that whole circulation process. So I think what we're looking for is look for a design, let your park board go ahead and get on board and find a place to go with it. Yeah, are you guys okay with that?
All due respect to Mike's out there too, but I like the idea of it being outside of the aquatic center part. It's just another attraction in Watertown. No, but
I think
yeah,
so, too.
no, and I know you wouldn't have it inside but I mean, even at the same place. I like the idea of it being totally someplace else, just as another attraction to the city of Watertown, so.
I agree. And that bike trail thing, I think is really an important feature, if they've got access.
How dependent is the design on the location?
You know, the utilities aspect of it would be very important because that would determine, you know, how far dollars can go for play features. If you're spending an exorbitant amount on the utilities, that'll certainly limit what you have for play features.
So the following question is if we design it without knowing a location, are we doing step B before step A, or?
I believe so. I think
That's
we
what-
want to determine that final location, like the mayor says, with the park board, and also if we enter into a contract with him, you know, probably get him out and take a look at some of the locations and get recommendations.
Any other questions?
So if, in our approving this, are we going to await a location that's approved before we proceed with design? Is that what I just heard?
Yes, we would
And so
certainly-
that's part of the condition of approval?
Yes.
Yeah, because I think the board needs to make a final decision on where it goes, and I think we should leave the decision up to the board. I mean, they know best, they work with this stuff all the time. So that decision, well, the decision has to be made where it's going to go before we actually design something for it.
Jay, is that kind of, I don't know, is that kind of the opinion right now of the board that's where they've pretty much agreed that's the best spot? I know your comment was parking, utilities, and bathroom. That's going to eliminate some places
It is.
automatically. Because parking, you could say other parks or whatever, but then you could only park around the block or whatever. So is a decision for the most part been made by the park board as far as where they want to go? Is that?
I can't say that it's been made, it's been discussed, like Cook Complex has been discussed quite frequently too, but just want to try and do it right and put it in the right
I don't,
location for the city.
there's no bathroom thing there unless you're gonna open up the Cook Complex at the
Yeah,
same
yeah.
time, so.
One of the things you have to remember, the Cook Complex, you're going to get a skate park out there.
Right.
Well, and the other thing too, tournament weekends, it's difficult to find places to park out there now without having to park a long ways
Yeah,
away.
even with the new space that's out there, the people were parking all the way up and down the ditches these last few weekends with the tournaments that were out there.
But I just want to question one thing, and not that, we need to have the power over everything here, but the mayor alluded to the fact that it should be the park board's decision. I don't know.
Well, that's got to come back to you for approval, though. You know that.
Then I'm cool with that. I think it needs to come to the council for
Absolutely.
approval.
Anything to this size has to come back to this board for final approval.
One of the things Bruce always mentioned, the bike trail and the advantages of that, and you're talking about parking and things like that. If you locate it in some place that's very accessible via foot traffic and bicycle traffic, then you are going to eliminate a lot of the parking issues as well. If people can, because there's a lot of population in that area that could very easily use the bike path.
And it's also very visible on Kemp Avenue in the McKinley Park location, and there are several daycares in that general area that would use it and that type of thing.
But let me ask you a question about that location or a similar location. Let's pretend we go back to 1996 or 7 when we had the flood, and that's all underwater, and this is in place. What happens to this unit when that's full of water?
It should be pretty secure, I would think.
Yeah. He said, I know it's wet.
Do you fill it with an antifreeze or
I
something?
mean, what happens to the system that drives this, that
And that's something I'd have to ask Jody, but if the pumps could be removed like in the fall and that type of thing, that the system could be winterized and some of the features stored.
Mike.
Would you not think it's a sealed system?
What would happen is, that system would be completely flushed out of all water that was in it. It would be re-disinfected by adding chlorine and running the filters for a period of time. The water would be tested, and when it's reached the point where it's not a hazard to the public health, it would be turned on and it would be back to normal.
I think what Mike is asking is, if it floods and freezes, that's what we get here. Is it going to be a
shut
sealed
down
system?
during that? We'd be able to seal it up and shut it down in that, for the winter period. And it wouldn't come on
And
until
it's
it's...
nothing mechanical, no storage units or pumps or the filtering system or the chemical system, all that's above ground?
Well, Mike, I really think you're getting way too deep into it.
I
I think
think-
we need to allow the people to come in and tell us where the best location is. This is going to be brought up to their attention, that this is in a floodplain. We're going to know, it's a great question, but I think that's got to be brought up to these people so they understand our concerns, flooding, because flooding is a big deal for Watertown.
So again, I'll ask the same question that I asked when we started this conversation. I mean, what we're acting on tonight, we don't need to necessarily have a specific location yet to approve this? I mean, I'm concerned too that we're getting the cart before the horse here.
No, it says it right in there that we need to get something designed for this thing, and they can design, they were going to give us 3 different designs for different areas. Is that not in the contract?
Yeah, and
That's what I read.
where I'm
Give 'em
coming
here.
from is to get the professionals involved to help us determine that.
So that professional fee will be the same regardless of where
Yes.
we ultimately end up
Yeah.
putting it?
Exactly.
That's my concern.
Yeah, this might be the best location in town, but the professionals are gonna tell us, no, it's in the floodplain, you can't build it there, so.
Just for clarification, the existing pool facility is also in the floodplain. But again, I think, just for clarity, what this contract's going to do is they're going to take the budget that's available to them, design as many positive features as they can into it. Then we fine tune that system when we find out exactly where we want it to go and what the other ulterior costs are. How long is the water main that's going to supply the park, that kind of things. But this is really the launching point to get all the ideas formulated to see what fits in your budget.
Jay, I would also just suggest that, because we've had, I think, a fair amount of success so far when we've had these projects like the community center, the softball, a lot of things we've looked at ice. Certainly, if you haven't already done it, talk to some folks that have these things. Visit with a few of them, find out what challenges they've had, what things they may have done differently. Because I know in our tours and going through all the places that we did prior to building those facilities, we learned a lot. So, if you can do that, I would recommend it.
Jay, what's the goal for starting construction on this and startup of the feature?
Well, it would be ideal if we could get the project completed this fall yet.
I doubt if that'll happen. I'm just saying that I think you'll get your design team put together and your location decided. My guess is you probably will not do this until spring of next year. That would be more realistic. I don't know. Do you guys agree or disagree?
I don't know what the construction time frame is on something like that. It doesn't seem like it should be a real long construction time frame.
But I think like once some of the play features are decided upon, that might be a 6 to 8 week window, because I think they kind of make them as they go.
Yeah,
If everything's done and those added in the spring,
Yeah.
if all you're gonna do is build it and then secure it for the winter, those features wouldn't have to be there. They
Right.
could be done, but everything ground-wise and infrastructure-wise, I just can't imagine that's gonna be a real long timeframe
No,
for doing that.
Actually-
So, I mean, it's possible, Mayor, that part could get done, who knows?
Aberdeen, Brookings, and Huron all have splash parks. There's probably more, but those are the three that come to mind. So if you want to take a field trip.
Okay.
Well,
Any
he has
other
one
quick
too.
questions for Jay? Hearing none, I will look for council action. All those in favor say aye.
Do you have a motion and a second?
Didn't I have a motion? A second?
Well, I don't know. I don't have one written down.
Okay, well, let's do it. I got one by Randy and Beth.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. And John. Okay, we're all in favor. All those say aye that are in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks,
Thank you.
Jay. I think this is going to be fun, and I hope to visit with those folks when they come here and let them know that we need the best location possible, and I think it's
I'll make sure of that.
perfect. Thanks, Jay. All right, Todd, you're up here, buddy. Okay, we're going to go on to number 10, authorization for the mayor to sign an airline transportation system lease agreement with Aerodynamics Incorporated. What I'm going to do, Todd, before you get into it, is I'm going to look for a motion and a second for discussion. Motion by Bruce, second by Glenn. Now, Todd, why don't you light it up and let us know what's going on?
All right, this is the terminal lease for Aerodynamics Incorporated. This is all their this parking space, excuse me, the parking space, the ramp space, and the internal structures inside the terminal ground lease. We copied Aberdeen. I was working diligently with Justin. We copied a couple of different leases, but we stuck with the meat and potatoes of what we had prior with Great Lakes and Delta in the past. So it's the exact same lease as we had with Great Lakes. We didn't change any prices due to we just didn't really want to gouge the new airline coming in. The mayor and I had discussed that maybe in the future, if they get the contract the next 2 years, we can raise the rent if need be. So that's where we're at.
Questions?
And ADI has already signed this, I see, is that correct?
That is correct.
Is this the same agreement we had with Great Lakes?
Yes.
All the terms and everything?
Correct.
So this is just a replication of that with ADI?
If I could, Councilman Danforth, the terms in terms of the rates, the amounts of money transacted, that's all the same. The one item, well, Lisa worked on this initially as well. Want to give her credit because her input was instrumental. There were certain other provisions that were taken from the Aberdeen lease, most of which were additional indemnifications, additional what-ifs that were included in this lease that weren't included in the Great Lakes lease. So essentially what we added were greater protections that are standardized not only with Aberdeen, but we were informed that these terms were also being used at other airports throughout the region.
Correct.
Okay, any other questions for Todd? We're that one step closer, aren't we, Todd?
That's right, the 15th.
All right, and I think Glenn's got a bet going on with me here, and Mike's got it on other things going on, and holy cow. Okay, I need to, no, hang on. I do need to take and get some council action on this. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Todd, while you're there, just fill us a little bit about how things are going out there, what you're hearing from ADI, what you're hearing from other communities that are now using them, or anything like that.
Sure. I had a chance to speak with the Youngstown airport manager, and service is a hit there. They started off with just a couple of glitches with the reservation system and the federal government not getting the paperwork back to them prior to about an hour and a half to the first flight. But they did get everything under control and got TSA involved and got everybody on the plane, and they got to do their inaugural. So it's went off without a hitch. They're doing exceptionally well. No pilot delays, no cancellations. They're on time every flight.
What are we seeing, Mayor, and what are we seeing for advertising and such? That's the one thing that is asked of me.
Right.
I don't see anything.
I can touch a little bit on it, and then Todd, you can touch further if you want to. I've been hearing radio advertisements that are going on that are being placed by, KXLG. I've heard radio ads on theirs. I know that today Megan is now on a full scale that we're pushing this out. We did have a bulletin. Actually, it's a one of those big signs, billboard sign, that has been donated to the city of Watertown for 2 years, that we're going to put ADI and Watertown up there, our airport. So it's pretty darn exciting. So you're going to see lots and lots of advertising over the next 3 to 6 months on this thing to get it so that it works for us.
I've heard some of the travel agents in town in their advertising is also including it in.
Yeah. And they're doing things that they're looking at making packages to go to football games and staying overnight in Denver, and it's going to get really exciting what they're planning on doing.
Go Broncos.
We just kicked off a marketing campaign today, Megan and I, and we got final approval today. We shipped it off to all the radio stations in town locally and also up in Millbank. So you should be hearing a lot of ads on the radio, and I want to thank both the radio stations last week for taking me in Thursday and Friday and letting me explain a little more in depth about the company and how we book tickets and all of that stuff.
I guess I've got a follow-up comment or follow-up to Mike's question too. I mean, you referenced you and Megan. I mean, is that something, it's just the two of you, or are we going to have more people involved as far as an advertising committee? Because again, if we expect this just to happen by itself, it's not going to happen. I guess I'd like some assurance too that we've got some plan in place for promoting this.
Well, what we're doing is we take the assurance of the Chamber of Commerce to market the entire city of Watertown. I would trust them to market our new airline. So that's who we're using, them and ADI. ADI is fully on board with putting out a marketing campaign. I don't know, don't you think the Chamber can do it?
Well, has this been discussed at length with them, though? Let's just not
Absolutely.
assume that they're going to be taking it on.
Absolutely. That's been a given for a long time now, that Megan is, unless you've heard something different, have you? Because she's on board.
But I am getting the question asked of me, though, that what by the Chamber, in fact, what is our plan for marketing this? That's telling me the Chamber isn't necessarily totally in the loop on this.
I would disagree with that 100%. I've had conversations with Megan and today, and you're working with her. I totally disagree with that, and I may be wrong, but whoever you're talking at the Chamber, they're on board with this. And we're going to get advertising, and it's going to be out there.
And also, I might add, too, that we are, there is an intention to kind of an outreach plan to go out to some of the area businesses and kind of, quell some of the concerns that they might have from our past experiences and try to convince them to start utilizing this airline.
I'm actually looking to set up a meeting with Spartan Industries here in the near future to go out to their company and actually do a sit-in with them to explain all the process.
And just so you know, also, I think there's a ribbon cutting on the way back on the 15th at 2 o'clock, I believe. Megan has already got that scheduled for that.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
And we've done, Megan and I have been in contact. We had a meeting, actually, the mayor and I, and Bruce was there, and we had all the travel agents and the news media.
And the chamber was there, and that's the time when the chamber said they were going to take it on. This was a month ago.
Right. So we've been working very diligently, myself with Megan, getting this marketing campaign underway.
Somebody must be hearing about it because I have 3 friends that already bought tickets, so.
If you have any questions, Glenn, just give me a shout. We can discuss further.
I have one more.
Sure.
When is our next, are we planning another meeting at the airport board? We haven't had one for some time. Is there anything in the works?
Nothing that I'm aware of. Do we need to have a meeting?
I think we do. It's been a long time.
Okay.
April.
What do we need, Shell? Okay. We're ready to move on? All right, thanks, Todd.
Thank you.
Number 11, consideration of change order number 1 to the contract with Kale Excavating LLC for the 2016 street improvement project, increasing the contract amount $2,712.50. I will look for a motion and a second for discussion. Motion by Beth. Second by Brad. Go ahead, Shane, fill us in. What's going on?
Can you put my screen up on the? Okay, so this year's assessment project, named 2016 Street Improvements, project number 1601, included curb and gutter, paving, grading and base on 12th Avenue between 14th Street and 17th Street South. It also included a portion of 15th Street going up to the north where it was, the paving ended at the mid-block. A part of the work also included our miscellaneous storm sewer project for the year. Basically, the storm sewer previously ended at the west end of 12th Avenue. And through this project, we wanted to extend the storm sewer over to the intersection of 17th and 12th Avenue to prepare for future work and be able to enhance the drainage through that area. In doing so, we had two conflicts with, one is the sanitary sewer service that came out of this apartment building was fairly shallow, and our storm sewer had to come right over the top of it. So a small portion of this change order was work related to that. They had to pour a concrete pad to support the storm sewer over that sewer service crossing so that we didn't crush the service with our new pipe. So that was a small portion of this, like $200 and some. And then further down the line on the east side of 15th Street, the utility company has a primary power that crossed this road about here and then went down the same location where our pipe was scheduled to go. So our contractor had to stop work and allow the power company to relocate their cable. And so the bulk of this change order is allowing them downtime, $1,500, and then some remob time or compensation to offset their loss of time and work. So I did negotiate these prices down from what the original asking price was. So we've knocked this down as far as we could deem reasonable, and I would recommend that we approve the change order. If there's any questions, I can answer.
No questions? Okay, I will look for council action. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
I will just add a comment that the work is just about done. Essentially, some seeding work needs to be done out there, and then some minor fix up on the concrete that got damaged by, while they were grading out the boulevards, and that's all work that the contractor's gonna do under his own warranty, so we're on the downhill slide here.
All right. Any old business that we need to bring up?
Mayor, technically it's old business, but, we've had a lot of discussions about the dissatisfaction and the problems that are related to the reseeding and the boulevard work on 19th. And the only reason why I bring that up is, I just had a nightmare the other day that as we're driving down and seeing Highway 81 works done, that we're going to have this same problem, and you're going to be inundated, as well as are going to be some council people with, assuming that the work is even reasonably close to what was done on 19th. I don't know if there's a way for us to be proactive in sitting down with the people that are running that project, and we cannot have happen what happened on 19th Street. That is completely unacceptable. It's outside of our hands, other than to try to fix the problem in the end. But we need to reset a standard of what we need for the type of work that's being done in that area, or for those types of projects, when we come into residential and commercial areas. It's completely different than doing a highway out in the country, we gotta redo a ditch. These are people's boulevards, and we have ordinances that require them to maintain them, but yet, a lot of the work is not being done to a standard that's even acceptable. If you recall, we had the same problem on Highway 20, 2 years ago? Biggest problem we had was this exact same problem. So we've had Highway 20, we had 19th Street. I can just see Highway 81 coming and having the same problem.
Yeah, the only positive thing I can say about it, Mike, is that these were done with STP STIP funds, and the DOT was in charge of those. We now have taken control of those particular funds, and the DOT will not be doing those projects through that. Now, granted, if there's something that is coming up on Highway 212 or any of these other major streets, but this was really, I wanted to use a word there, but this was bad. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Well,
it was really bad.
But Highway 81 is the
It's gonna be,
state
'cause
project again, right?
I went
So-
up there, it's a state project. I
Some-
was up there the other day, and the weeds are already 3 foot high. And it is absolutely unacceptable of what's going on and how they finish a project. And Shane, I certainly hope that you are addressing that with them. We do not sign off until we're satisfied with the boulevards. Would you guys agree?
But we've
can't sign
had
off.
2 big projects now that have been, for lack of better terms, I think they've been a disaster in the wrap-up. I think the work that's been done has been good, the project itself. It's the last little bit that wraps it up has
It's hard to
been
grow
a
grass.
disaster.
It's
been
hard to grow
terrible.
grass and gravel.
Yep.
And that's what they used. Instead of dirt, they put in gravel, and that's what we're seeing. It's hard to grow there. So no, I agree with you 100%. Those lawns are gonna come back and haunt us, those boulevards. I know they will.
And they should.
And we're addressing them
I
right
mean, and
now.
they should, and the problem is they should never get to that point. So we got to talk about an expectation, I think, with them, and apparently they're doing their work to a standard that is agreeable to them, but it isn't to the people that they are affecting, and
Pretty low
rightfully
standard.
so.
Pretty
So-
low standard, I would say. So how are you gonna address
Duly
it?
noted, we do have a weekly meeting on that Highway 81 project, and I will work with the project manager and his inspectors to ramp up their expectations of what, or anticipations of what our expectations are. And we'll try to head this off before it gets there, to the point that we are at
Well,
with
it's getting
19th.
there now, so we need to go up and
Well,
do something.
yeah, the weeds are one thing, rocks are, of course, a different one, and unfortunately, we've been outside of our seating window with the heat in the summer, but we're re-entering that shortly, so hopefully, sometime by mid-late August, we'll be retilling those boulevards and seating them, and I will strongly, try to emphasize that they need to get on that sooner than later.
I would suggest
That was part of the
you,
problem last year, was that the work got so late that they were in a rush trying to get it buttoned up.
I would suggest, now that you've got Keith on board up there in building services, that you get him also, or Roger, or somebody that can be on them constantly to look at that, because we can't accept it the way that it happened over on 19th.
Well, I look just on 19th Street, Mayor, at how much time, and I know, Don, you've been involved extensively, and I've been involved extensively. Shane, you and your staff have been involved. We've had meetings on this. Mayor, you've been inundated, you've been out there. I look at how much time has been spent on this, and heck, we'd been better off just sodding the darn thing in the first place, and it'd be cheaper for us. Obviously, that's probably not going to be the answer long-term, but it seems like a relatively simple thing, and it just has been a disaster. I mean, it's been terrible, so.
Yeah, you would certainly think so. So, there you go, Shane. Anybody else?
I do have just, I just want to make a comment regarding the sign ordinance. We've had that, the First District has been working on that for some time now, retooling that, and we thought it would be a little bit more of a simple process to begin with, because we were basically dealing with portable signs and off-premise signs to start with, and then we found out some other issues came to light with some other communities around the country. Brookings apparently had retooled their ordinance. It's mostly free speech issues, which tell us that we can't dictate content on a sign. Well, we can to a degree. There's certain things we can, certainly, but due to that, we've had to basically revamp a good portion of our sign ordinance. First District came to us with the first draft here just last week for us to review. There are a number of questions, certain things that we're still questioning. It appears that we're going to have a couple of more, I would say probably 2, maybe 3 more meetings to get this thing to where we probably all agree on it. And then the next step, I believe, and Mayor, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we would bring this to a work session for the council for us to look at. And then, I'm a believer that we need to take this to the public, that we, like we did the first time when we worked on the sign ordinance some years back. We had a number of people from the community, people that make signs, people that buy a lot of signs, business people from the community, and get them involved in this process. We don't have to drag it out forever, but we think it's necessary to do that, to get those inputs, and then hopefully we can come up with a final draft to present to the council for approval. And so that's kind of where we're at, and I think we've got another meeting scheduled for this week, I believe. We're going to set one up for this week. We're trying to stay on this thing and keep it moving. Thanks.
Yep. 20th Avenue and Highway 81 South. There was another pretty bad accident out there by the ethanol plant on Sunday. A T-bone with a rollover. Where are we at with the DOT, and how long do we have to wait before something very tragic happens out there at that corner?
Right. The DOT seems to run on their own time schedule and necessity on certain things like that. I do know that we have been sending them the police reports, the accident reports, so they understand that these accidents are occurring, and they're going to occur more frequently when Broadway is closed. They don't seem to have the feeling that we need either to slow down traffic or do anything out there at this particular time. And it's a real struggle. So we are running it through Don and because he's on the DOT board, and he can just give you suggestions for Watertown. Is there something you wanted to add on it,
I'll
Don?
just say that they're very data-driven. Data's telling them right now that they don't need to do anything, but it's an ongoing discussion, and I just read about that yesterday. So I'll try and keep that ball in the air when I'm discussing it with them.
Yeah, because it's a big concern out there. There's people that are there's just something that can direct people that, there's a stop sign here, and hopefully it doesn't take a tragic accident to get any action done.
Don, is there anything our legislators can do to push that forward or to make some kind of a provisional change in the meantime?
They could certainly, for lack of a better phrase, apply pressure. I mean, they certainly could. I'd say if we're going to do that, make it a coordinated effort. You read about that accident. We've been getting calls in this intersection since I've been in the council. It's speed. That's a wide intersection. So it's unfortunate that accident happened, but I guess I'd say a lot of people aren't surprised. So I think if we do it, And I'd say I hate to say sit tight, because that's what we're being told to do, but if we're going to get the legislators involved, I'd say make it a coordinated effort.
It's kind of crazy. The other day, I was coming down 81, and I was going to go east on 20th Avenue. As I'm coming up to the corner to turn left, somebody came on the west side of me on 20th and turned and started going down the wrong way, and then came back into my lane instead of waiting for me to turn. Yeah, there's a lot of push. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on.
And part of it is, in somewhat of a defense to the DOT, it's bad driving habits too. We've got some bad driving habits taking place out there, and things like that, and people making a run for it. That being said, that's a big intersection, and it's high speeds.
DOT can't fix stupid.
Well, they can help. But they can. They can.
well,
I mean, they can't fix stupid, but what frustrates me is this affects our community. We have a lot of people within our community that have expressed concern to us, especially those, obviously, that have been T-boned or almost T-boned, which I'm one of them that was almost T-boned there. So it frustrates me that there is a day when that roundabout comes that they are going to be slowing traffic down so why not do it sooner than later? That's the part that frustrates me. But I do have a question. Is in the interim, I'll call it the lack of action from the DOT standpoint on this corner. The one thing that I see coming from the east of us, we have a turning lane, and we have what would it be if I'm coming from the east? The right lane is for the traffic to go through or take a right, and then you have a left-hand turn. I'm not so sure that we shouldn't, in the interim, just get rid of all the lanes with the exception of one. Because what I almost got in trouble with was I was coming from east to west going south with a truck here. I can't see underneath, can't see around it. The truck starts because he sees traffic coming. My intuition at that point was there's no traffic because the truck's going. And so I take off and there is a vehicle there. He's timing it, I can't see it. I'm not so sure that that's not part of our issue out there, is that when there are issues because there is so much truck traffic there, I'm not so sure that we shouldn't at least consider taking some action on our own, and that would be from the east and from the west on an interim basis.
Scott, what are you guys seeing out there?
Well, is that on? Okay. Well, like Mayor said, we are keeping track of the accidents that occur at that location. The accident reconstructionist and me, or the collision reconstructionist, I never like to refer to them as accidents because there's always human involvement. And you can design roads, you can do different steps to try and decrease those crashes, but in the end, it takes a driver to make that decision to move that vehicle, and for the most part, it's inattentiveness of the driver. And some of the things that you can do is roundabouts. I was a huge fan of installing the roundabout up on 11th Street and 14th Avenue because I've done a lot of research on roundabouts, and they've proven to have been very effective in reducing crashes, rather than have a four-way stop or even a two-way stop where everybody kind of looks at each other and tries to decide who goes first. So there's different design things that you can do to a roadway to try and decrease accidents, whether that's reducing speed or putting some kind of a calming measure in. A lot of times you'll see that like in downtown streets, like Brookings and Sioux Falls, they have little curb points that come out, some trees on them. Those are all calming techniques to slow people down. They're not just for aesthetics only. So with that 20th Avenue and 81 intersection, it is a very wide open road. The speed limit, I believe, in that area is 45, approaching it on 81 anyway, and I think it's 35 on 20th. But anytime you start getting speeds at 45 miles an hour or faster, the chances of injury is substantially greater than at 25, like on any residential street. So, unfortunately, the engineers are telling us that 45 is an accurate speed for that roadway, and that might be for a 4-lane highway, but anytime you can decrease that speed, it certainly helps. There's, like I said, there's different calming measures that we could look at, but in the meantime, I think, continued awareness of that intersection, continued future planning as far as what we can do there from a design design method. I guess I'd be cautious about changing up the pattern of the roadway on 20th Avenue, just because people have somewhat become accustomed to what's there. And if you implement change, some people aren't looking at what that change is, and I would be fearful that it might create more crashes. So I guess I would recommend, I know there's some thought about a roundabout there at some point in the future in 2018, whenever that would be. But in the meantime, I would guess, I would recommend, visible presence from the police, to include the Cottington County Sheriff's Office and South Dakota Highway Patrol, as well as us, putting speed board trailers out there to bring some awareness of the speed issues. You can always paint some things on the road to try and capture a driver's attention, to stop ahead, put a little warning light above the stop sign that's a red flashing light, things like that. There's all kinds of different measures that you can do to try and gain that driver's attention, because every crash is a result of a driver's inattention. It's not the vehicle that causes the crash, it's the driver.
Have any of these people, they haven't been running the stop sign, they've just stopped but pulled out at a wrong time, correct?
No, I
So
think the last one, Brad, I think it was a ticket issued for running a stop sign.
not even stop,
Failure to stop.
failure to
I believe.
yield.
And a failure to stop that, they might have stopped and then proceeded, that would still be a failure to stop.
I think
type
reading the police
situation.
report, they did stop and
Yeah,
then
that was my understanding
proceeded,
too,
yeah.
that they did stop. But in any event, if you pull away from a stop sign and there's traffic coming, unfortunately, that's a criminal law violation.
And I think that's what people are having problems with, judging the speed of 45 miles an hour. They're used to driving other city streets, other city highways, 4-lane highways that are 35. And they've got this car coming 10, well, it's 50 miles an hour out there, I believe, so 20 miles an hour faster
Yeah.
than.
And a lot of times, the general public or the general driver doesn't think about how fast the car will travel in feet per second. They're just kind of, well, I know I'm doing 45 miles an hour. But you start putting that into reconstruction terms, like what I used to do quite a bit of, that really changes things up when you can move a vehicle coming from two different directions and call it feet per second and velocities. You start looking at that kind of thing, it really makes people more aware of what can happen. So I think education on the intersection, presence, police presence, and just continue to try and make it safe, because that's what we're in the business of doing, is public safety, and we certainly have a vested interest in providing for public safety.
I would like to see some flashing yellow lights too, something that, caution, dangerous intersection or something out there.
I think-
I know the DOT doesn't want them out there, but I say we just put them up and
I know people are coming down on us as a city.
Yeah, we're about 2 years out for completion of the work, so.
I think a little bit of it's size of the intersection too. People are accustomed to a smaller city intersection, and then all of a sudden now they're into basically a 4-lane intersection in all 4 directions, so.
But, like I said, whenever you change driving patterns, 29th Street, when Walmart was first built, we had a lot of crashes at 29th Street and 212, and some of those being fatal crashes. Part of that is people were just used to just driving 45, 50 miles an hour into town and not thinking about any side traffic or thinking about a stoplight being there, even though it's hanging right above the road. So, it's habit. It's driving habit. It's inattentiveness on behalf of the driver, and that's why I say, I'd be hesitant to change road design or anything like that at this point.
I just want to say too, Mike's scenario that he almost said he got T-boned. Someone I work with, her son had the exact same thing happen to him. Same spot, same scenario. Those are things we can control, at least in the interim, until. And honestly, I think Mike's got a great idea, I think, on making a single lane traffic there, so you don't have that extra lane. I think that's not a bad, I don't think that's a bad idea.
The problem with that is jamming up the traffic. I mean, you're gonna have a serious problem when Broadway's closed there. You're not gonna have any way to get that traffic to go when you got somebody trying to make a left turn. And there's traffic coming
Yeah,
this way.
and I think that makes it all more important to me.
I think just the opposite, because here, for you to jam up traffic, people are gonna be more apt to be in a hurry and try to shoot across that intersection.
Okay, so
Got-
I did, guys, I'm going to move on this.
Can I
Just let me finish here. Shane, I sent Rob a note to get some flashing yellows out on 20th Avenue so people can be aware of the stop sign. I don't know if we can put them on Highway 81. If we do, someone might tell us that we got to take them down, but we should consider it. And you do have an issue that you want to start talking about on Highway 81 and 20, do you not? That's going to take a little bit of time, guys, so I really got to get moving. Was there something we hadn't talked about?
I just only want to ask Scott, you mentioned the roundabout. What is the traffic scenario accident-wise been on the roundabout?
You know, I'm not exactly familiar with those numbers, but I know we haven't had a lot of crashes there, and when we do have crashes, you're talking usually just minimal property damage. You're not talking injuries to passengers and that sort of thing, so that's the purpose.
I can kind of tell you what I've heard on the roundabout so far is that one of them, an accident was a street light fell down into a guy's pickup. Dead serious. Yeah, street light fell off and fell into a pickup. That happened. And then there was a couple pop tires, I think, that happened this winter, and that's the only things that I've heard about.
Yeah,
Other than that, I really haven't heard of a lot of problems.
yeah, it's been a great tool having that roundabout there.
Yeah. And then we'll get that. So Shane, if you want to slide into 81 and 20 there, we'll get going on that.
I will. I was just gonna say, it is so ironic, because my next item is, I didn't have it in time to get it on the agenda in the proper way, but we are working with the DOT, and in their footprint of the new roundabout will impact several manhole facilities that the city has within that intersection. So we're gonna reconfigure our gravity sanitary sewer system within that intersection to accommodate their new footprint. And we want to do that and include it in their plans, but we need to have our design plans done and submit to the DOT. And so the sooner that I can get a consultant hired and on board to do that design, the better. So I put before you each tonight a copy of a professional services agreement with Howard R. Green, who has been recently doing a lot of infrastructure projects for us out at the wastewater treatment plant. And Mike Berger's been very satisfied with the work that they've been doing for us. And so we reached out to Howard R. Green to assist us in redesigning the sanitary sewer in this intersection to fit the new footprint up when the roundabout is constructed. The timeline for that is that design, the DOT is towards the finishing portion of their design work on the intersection. It is going to go through a rigorous design review on their end. We're going to include our plans within theirs and bid it at the same time and do all the work under the same project in 2018. So bids are going to be taken in fall of 2017 with the construction in 2018, and we want to be on board with that project with our plans.
So Shane, are you looking for action from?
I am. I'm looking for action to enter this professional services agreement with Howard R. Green Company. Their estimated fee is $19,800, which seems very reasonable for a project of this scope and
not to
expedition rate.
So what I'll do, Shane, is I'll look for a motion and a second for discussion.
Done.
Motion by Brad, second by Randy. Any questions you have for Shane on this?
Shane, what coordination do you have to do with the DOT on that?
Well, a couple things. We have to have our own, certain aspects of, that our design won't have to include is detouring, traffic control will be largely all taken care of by the DOT. We'll have certain things, we'll have sanitary sewer construction plans and specs that they don't do because they don't have utilities on their work typically. So we'll prepare a set of drawings and specifications related to the utility work and submit it into their plans, and then so we will realize some savings by piggybacking into their project, but and then we have unique portions of the project that they won't touch. So does that answer your question?
Are they gonna have to coordinate then I mean, tearing up the sewer, obviously, somehow it's gonna have to be maintained.
Right.
So,
Yep.
it's not like you can just dig it up and come back. and
Right.
Wait a week and get the other side, so.
Correct. They have a temporary road that they're building through the part of the parking lot over here that comes back onto the road over here. So once they get that traffic rerouted, we'll dig across and get our sewer out of the way as soon as we can. So it'll be a very good coordinated project.
Have you seen plans for the detour? What they're thinking on doing?
Well, they're gonna try to allow traffic through the intersection as much as possible, but there will be times when a detour will probably be needed. But for the most part, it's gonna have some traffic through the intersection at all times.
At 55 miles an hour right through there.
No, they will slow it down for construction, John, but they are reluctant to change the speed at this time. I will acknowledge that. So, any other questions?
Any other questions for Shane on that? It's good that we're working with them on getting this done now. So I will look for council action. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor, I have just a comment about, I went to a gathering out at the event center a couple of weeks ago that Captain McMahon and others were there. And I just asked him, it was 650 or more people. And I just asked him, what would make you feel safer? And he said, well, his belt. And we said, well, that's probably not an option. But when you put 650 people there, what he did say was if they could use their radios that are assigned by the city, so if something were to happen, he wouldn't be fumbling for his cell phone to try to make contact with emergency of some sort. And when you put that numbers of people, you could have something happen. And so I just said, well, why don't I bring it up? I suppose the belt is not an option even when it's our officers, because we've talked about that. But what about the use of the radio?
You know, we talked about that, I think it was probably 2 years ago or so when we went through that. I would recommend, Justin, that you readdress that for us and take a look and see what the officers can and cannot use as they're out there, because I don't believe you are a city employee as you're out there representing somebody else. Am I correct?
That's correct. I'm actually an employee of the event center at that point. I do have to follow my sword a little bit here, Dan. I did talk with the chief, and he said, well, you know, we did kind of have some of that discussion when we were talking about wearing uniforms and that sort of thing. And he reminded me that, well, it's okay to take your radio. So it's something that had been a year or so ago, and that completely passed by me. But yeah, he's okay with us wearing the radio. So.
Don't you have guns, John, out there that you could give to them?
They don't allow me to carry one on premise.
Any other liaison member reports?
I do got one. Through the Watertown Area Transit. Recently, they just had the DTA meeting, which is the Dakota Transit Authority, which is state of South Dakota, North Dakota. Watertown Area Transit, the Assistant Director, Wendy Klein, was named Support Person of the Year. Prairie Lakes Hospital in Watertown was named Friend of Transit for the 50 transits. And Watertown was also named the most innovative transit of the state, or the DTA. Just a little heads up, Terry sent me an email today. We're up about 10,000 rides for the year compared to this time last year. Total rides for last year was only 44,770, so to be up 10,000 already this year, they're doing some great things over there, so hats off to those guys, so.
Mayor, just the fact we had a a ribbon cutting yesterday for the golf course for the third 9 that had not been opened and seemed to go very well, so I think that's a positive.
It was an extremely fun time out there yesterday afternoon. We had a ribbon cutting for the yellow course. It had not been played for almost exactly a year. I think we closed it on August the 2nd, and here it was open on July 30th or August 11th and July 30th, something like that. But Mike, I want to just mention some names on that, and help me if I forget anybody, but it was Mike Danforth, his brother Tim Danforth, Steve Wyseth, Murphy was out there, Levi, Todd, and Pat Shriver was on that committee. And I tell you what is so nice is that most of you know I'm not a golfer, so I really didn't have a handle on what they needed out there. But every one of those guys that we put on that committee that worked on that thing worked hard and worked day in and day out on that, and worked with Dunnick's extremely close, made some changes on it, and it went really well. And yesterday, the people that were on there were just thrilled with the way that course turned out. It might be a little slower than they were expecting, but with the new grass, it went really, really well. So thanks to the committee for doing that. It was a great job.
Well, and it's really going to be a fun time for the people that partake out there at the golf course. But, I will say too that, to give Todd and his staff a lot of credit for what they did. There's, you take that course out of commission, which frees up some labor and such, but, a construction project like that demands a lot of time. And between Todd and Jeff Elkin and his staff, I think they did a really, really good job.
Yeah.
It saved us a lot of money on it outside of the quoting, otherwise we'd have been over budget on it, so.
It did, and I think you'll
kudos to
notice,
them.
You'll notice in this year's budget, you guys will get that budget tonight, I believe, and then you'll see that we did include some dollars. I believe it was $100,000 that we've included to finish the yellow course up, and the reason that we're looking for that is in the sand traps, and people are paying $150 or $250 for these sand wedges, and they're banging rocks out of there, so we need to get them cleaned up and finished, and then the yellow will be done. We'll skip a year and get a couple of things done on red and so forth. So it should be really good.
I'd just like to say we'd be remiss if we didn't thank, acknowledge, and congratulate the new Watertown Hall of Fame inductees that'll be coming in this fall. Lou Rottershot, who unfortunately passed away last week, Ernie Edwards, and Joy Nelson. Thank you to what they've done for the community.
Perfect. I also would like to mention, I think, Scott, August 2nd, is that like tomorrow, National Night Out? I would invite everybody to try to come over and enjoy tomorrow evening. Maybe you can tell us what's going on.
Sure, come out tomorrow evening at the police department this year, right across the street here from City Hall. I believe it starts at around 6. The FOP, Fraternal Order of Police, will be there serving hamburgers, hot dogs usually. And there's just all kinds of different community groups that'll be there. It'll be a good fun time. The weather's supposed to be good, so please do come on out and see what's going on at the police department tomorrow.
Attorney General Marty Jackley is going to be in attendance,
That's
I
my
understand.
understanding. Attorney General Marty Jackley will be helping with the food items, so.
I'll come as long as you guys don't make me get in the donut eating contest. I always lose.
And then I also want to, thanks, Scott,
You bet.
appreciate it. We'll have fun tomorrow night. And then I would also like to mention that I think, Shelley, you're handing out the budget books tonight, and our budget hearings are starting August the 9th at 6 p.m. and August 10th at 6 p.m. We'll expect them to run anywhere from 3 to 3.5 hours every night for the next couple of nights on the 9th and 10th. So bring some of that. I've seen, Mike, you kind of drink some of that Go Juice once in a while, whatever that is. I don't know what it is. Caffeine or something like that. So bring it along. Anybody else? Anything else? Shelley, you got anything you want to throw out there? All right. Well, thank you very much. And if there's nothing else, I don't think we have any reason to go into executive session. I will look for a motion, a second to adjourn. Motion John, second by Glenn. All in favor, say aye. Aye.